What if I told you that nearly 90% of people simply won't answer their phone anymore?
I mean, honestly, that tracks. I don't answer mine.
Right. Or what about this 96% of us actively, intentionally block digital tracking on our devices?
Oh, wow. 96%.
Yeah. And to top it all off, only 3% of the public actually trusts marketers and salespeople, just 3%.
That is, wow, that is a wildly low number. But, think about your own habits for a second.
Exactly. You probably screen your calls, you probably use an ad blocker, and you definitely view like any cold outreach as an immediate nuisance.
Oh, absolutely.
So, in a world that is actively building these massive, impenetrable digital fortresses to just completely ignore you, how do you convince anyone to buy anything?
It's really the central paradox of modern business.
Yeah.
We have more communication technology at our fingertips right now than at any point in human history.
Hmm.
Yet actually reaching a consumer and having a meaningful conversation has never been more difficult. We are looking at a landscape where the consumer is essentially fully armored, and traditional outreach is just bouncing right off those shields.
Which means the old playbook is practically useless.
Totally useless.
So today, we're taking a deep dive into our sources. Specifically, we're focusing on Chapter 1 of The Conversion Code by Chris Smith, alongside a whole stack of research and notes on consumer privacy trends.
It's such a crucial topic.
It really is. Our mission here is to map out the foundational shift from aggressively chasing weak leads to magnetically attracting high-quality clients.
Right, creating that pull.
Exactly. For anyone out there, whether you're trying to grow a business, secure more clients, or just master the mechanics of digital sales, this is your blueprint.
Yeah, we're looking at how you survive and honestly thrive in an era where consumer privacy has fundamentally rewritten the rules of engagement.
And we really have to start by defining what that new environment actually looks like.
We do, because before we can even begin to, crack the code to get new clients, we have to deeply understand the mechanics of why the old methods are failing so spectacularly today.
Right. The brute force marketing.
Exactly. The landscape hasn't just shifted a little bit. The tectonic plates have completely moved. We're living through a privacy revolution, and the consumer has overwhelmingly won.
I look at the data in our notes, and it's staggering. It's not just some subtle trend. It's a massive structural change.
Let's look at Apple's iOS update from a couple of years ago as a prime example.
Oh, man, yeah. That single software update essentially broke the back of traditional digital advertising.
It really did. They required apps to explicitly ask for the user's permission before tracking their data across other apps or websites.
Right, that little Ask App Not to Track pop-up that appeared on millions of screens.
And we need to look at the psychology of that moment. For years, consumers felt this vague sense of unease.
Like someone was watching.
Right. They would search for a pair of shoes, and then those exact shoes would just follow them around the internet for a month.
It felt so invasive.
But there was no easy way to stop it because the tracking pixels, those little snippets of code marketers used, were totally invisible.
So Apple basically took that invisible process and made it highly visible.
Exactly. They gave the consumer a simple, single button to shut it down.
And the response was pretty decisive. 96% of people who are given that choice say no, they opt out.
96%.
Yeah. Which means overnight, one of the most powerful tools marketers had the ability to seamlessly monitor your behavior went completely dark.
It created a massive blind spot for businesses. And it's not an isolated incident either.
Right. It's happening everywhere.
Look at the regulatory side. In Europe, you have the General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR, which mandated those strict, explicit cookie consent laws.
Oh, the cookie banners.
Yeah. Now, when you visit a website and that cookie banner pops up asking to track your session, 89% of people either ignore it, close it, or outright reject tracking.
So the behavioral data pipelines are literally just drying up.
Completely.
But it goes beyond just web tracking. Even the basic email inbox, which used to be the sacred ground of digital marketing, has been totally fortified.
Apple stepped in there too. They introduced features in their Mail app requiring users to consent to sharing whether they opened or clicked an email.
Wow.
Let's break down why that matters mechanically. For decades, salespeople lived and breathed by open rate notifications.
Oh, absolutely.
If you sent out an email blast to 100 prospects, a tiny invisible pixel would ping your server when the email was opened. It was how a salesperson knew a lead was warm.
You could literally see someone opening your proposal for the third time, and you'd know to call them at that exact moment.
It was a digital stakeout.
A digital stakeout. That is a great way to put it.
But now, That pixel is blocked by default for millions of users.
So you're just flying blind.
You have no idea if they ever read your message, if it went to spam, or if they forwarded it to a colleague. The intelligence gathering has been completely crippled.
And then there's the phone itself.
Oh, don't even get me started on the phones.
The FCC had to crack down on robocalls because U.S. consumers were receiving nearly 4 billion of them every single month.
4 billion. That's insane.
Right. Phone manufacturers and carriers, under immense government pressure, started labeling incoming calls as suspected spam or scam likely.
Which fundamentally changed human behavior. I mean, 10 years ago, if your phone rang and you didn't recognize the number, you probably still answered it.
Yeah, just in case it was important.
Right. Today, an unknown number is treated as a hostile threat.
It really is.
So when we ask why these old methods are failing, it's because for decades, marketers relied on invisible tracking, sneaky open rate pings, and automatic dialers to just stalk leads until they capitulated.
And now those tools are being systematically stripped away.
Exactly.
Well, hold on a second. I want to push back on this a bit, because if you're a business owner listening to this right now, this sounds like an absolute nightmare.
It definitely sounds scary.
If the tech giants and the government are making it literally impossible to track behavior, measure interest, or even call a prospect, isn't outbound marketing just dead?
That's the logical next question.
It sounds to me like we are trying to fish in a pond where the fish have built-in radar detectors, and the moment our boat enters the water, they all hide under the rocks.
I love that analogy. And if we follow it, the fish do have radar detectors.
Right.
And that's precisely why you can no longer use a massive indiscriminate net to just drag the bottom of the pond. If you throw a net, the alarms go off, the shields go up, and the fish scatter.
So you cannot force a modern consumer into a conversation against their will.
Exactly. You just can't.
So what's the alternative? We just sit on the shore, dangle a hook, and hope a fish happens to be hungry. Because hope is not a scalable business model.
No, it's not about hope. It's about a complete reversal of physics. You have to use irresistible bait so the fish actively want to jump into the boat.
Okay, I see.
The transition we're talking about is moving entirely from a strategy of interruption to a strategy of attraction. You have to create an environment, a piece of content, a digital presence where people are actively seeking you out.
They voluntarily lower their shields to contact you.
Yes.
The shift from push to pull, instead of interrupting what they are interested in, you have to become what they are interested in.
Precisely. You have to stop relying on sneaky tracking data or spammy outreach to fill your pipeline. The consumer have to opt in.
Right.
They have to come to your website, read your insights, and decide entirely on their own terms to fill out a form or send a message.
Okay, I follow the logic there. But if inbound attraction is the goal, how do we actually convert that attention into revenue?
That's the million-dollar question.
Because getting someone to look at your website or read your blog or watch your video is one thing. Getting them to hand over a credit card or sign a $50,000 contract is entirely different.
Totally different skill set. And to understand the mechanics of that conversion, we need to look at the genesis of this methodology. Where was the conversion code actually born?
Right.
And this is vital because it wasn't born in some sterile Silicon Valley incubator running hypothetical A/B tests on a whiteboard.
It wasn't just theory.
Not at all. It was born in the high-pressure, incredibly intense intersection of old-school, gritty sales and modern technology.
Let's dig into the author's background, Chris Smith, because his resume totally establishes the credibility of everything we're dissecting today.
It really does.
This isn't theoretical for him. He learned inside sales by working in literal boiler rooms for billionaires. Specifically, Dan Gilbert, the founder of Quicken Loans, which is now Rocket Mortgage, and Lou Pearlman, the infamous music mogul who created NSYNC.
Yeah, the mechanics of the sale in both of those environments were identical, despite the products being wildly different. He was sitting in a cubicle, dialing for dollars, calling internet leads over a landline. At Quicken Loans, he was selling mortgages over the phone during the 2008 housing crash.
I want to pause on that because the context is everything here. The economy is collapsing, interest rates are sky high, people are terrified, and he isn't meeting these prospects in a mahogany office with a firm handshake.
No, not at all.
He is calling strangers who filled out an internet form and trying to convince them to hand over their social security numbers and financial history over a phone call within the first 5 minutes.
Which is wild.
And this was before DocuSign made everything easy. He had to get them to physically sign and fax back good faith estimates. The level of psychological mastery required to pull that off is immense.
Because nearly everyone he spoke to was deeply skeptical. Many probably thought the call itself was a scam.
Right.
He had to learn the absolute fundamental bedrock of human persuasion. He learned how to establish authority instantly.
He learned how to navigate intense objections. And most importantly, he learned how to get someone more emotionally invested in the solution than they were afraid of the cost or the risk.
And he had a very short window of time to do it.
Exactly.
So he masters the ultimate high-pressure, old-school sales environment, the pure psychology of the close. Then what happens?
Then he takes that raw sales DNA and transitions into the tech world. He goes into outside sales for SaaS companies, places like Top Producer and later Dotloop, which eventually got acquired by Zillow for over $100 million.
That's a huge pivot.
And it's the pivot point for the whole methodology,
Yes.
because he learned how to close a highly skeptical human being before he ever learned how to market to them online.
Right.
His entire perspective on digital marketing was completely inverted from the industry standard.
Break that down for us. How does a pure closer view marketing differently than a traditional digital marketer?
Well, a traditional digital marketer obsesses over vanity metrics. They want likes, they want follows, they want impressions. Right, the stuff that looks good on a slide deck.
Exactly. Their goal is often just to show the CEO a graph where the line goes up and to the right, regardless of whether that line represents actual revenue.
Yeah.
But someone who comes from a boiler room understands that marketing has only one true job. Its only actual purpose in a business context is to provide the sales team with high-quality, intent-driven conversations.
So if a lead isn't ready to have a meaningful conversation about buying, the marketing failed, no matter how many clicks the ad got.
Exactly. Marketing is just the setup for the conversation.
It's like a classically trained Michelin star chef suddenly taking over a massive fast food chain.
Oh, I like that.
Because the chef knows the grueling fundamental chemistry of making everything from scratch, how to balance acids and fats, how to butcher a cut of meat. They can engineer a much better, infinitely more efficient system for the masses.
Yes.
They aren't just relying on the microwave to heat up prepackaged food because they understand what actually makes the meal work on a foundational level.
That analogy hits the nail on the head. The problem facing businesses today is that too many of them are trying to run the restaurant using only the microwave.
Right.
They think software and automation are the answers to everything.
The e-commerce myth. Let's talk about that, because I think a lot of people listening fall into this trap.
It's incredibly common.
There's this pervasive idea sold by a lot of internet gurus that if you just set up a funnel, run some Facebook ads, and build an automated email drip sequence, you can just sit back on a beach while the money passively rolls in.
It's an incredibly dangerous myth for professional services.
Yeah.
I mean, if you are selling a $20 t-shirt, sure, the e-commerce model works perfectly.
Right, it's a completely different transaction.
The risk is low, the decision-making process is instant, and nobody needs to talk to a human to buy a t-shirt.
Yeah.
But if you are a real estate agent, a loan officer, a B2B software rep, a financial planner, or a high-end consultant, you are not Shopify.
The friction is too high.
Exactly. People do not put a $500,000 house or a $50,000 enterprise software contract or their retirement savings into an online shopping cart and just check out without talking to a human being.
The stakes are just too high?
They need reassurance. They have nuanced, specific questions that a FAQ page cannot answer.
So you can automate the attraction. You can use marketing to pull them in. You can automate the follow-up reminders to stay top of mind. But you absolutely cannot automate the trust required for a major transaction.
No, you can't.
That requires a human voice.
Which leads to the ultimate practical takeaway from this origin story. Do not use automation as a crutch to avoid doing the actual hard work of selling.
Right.
If you want to make more money with online leads, you have to pick up the phone. As the text lays out beautifully, conversations create customers.
I love that.
If your company has more usernames and passwords for marketing tools than your sales team has actual conversations with prospective clients, your system is fundamentally broken.
Okay, so let's synthesize where we are. The privacy revolution means we have to attract, not interrupt.
Right.
And the reality of high-ticket sales means we eventually have to get on the phone and have a real conversation to build trust.
Yes.
But if we all conceptually know we have to pick up the phone to close a big deal, what is stopping so many businesses from actually doing it successfully? Let's look at the actual stats of modern lead conversion, because they are grim.
They really are. The numbers in the text are sobering. Only 12% of marketers report being very satisfied with their lead conversion rates.
Which means 88% of businesses are out there spending massive amounts of capital on marketing, generating some form of interest, and then failing to turn that interest into revenue at a rate they consider acceptable.
That is a massive systemic failure rate.
Where is the disconnect happening?
The research points to a few major bottlenecks. First, companies simply aren't collecting enough data on the leads to have an intelligent conversation.
Right, they get just the basics.
They get a name and an email, but they don't know the specific problem the person is trying to solve.
Yeah.
Second, they are failing to follow up with leads quickly enough. If someone fills out a form at 2 p.m. and you call them at 4 p.m., they've already moved on with their day.
Oh, for sure. 2 hours is an eternity online.
Exactly. And third, they are struggling just to make that initial contact because of the privacy barriers we discussed earlier.
And compounding all of this is the internal warfare that exists inside most organizations. This is the stat that genuinely blew my mind. 90% of sales and marketing professionals say they are totally misaligned across strategy, process, content, and culture.
90%.
The people generating the leads and the people closing the leads aren't even speaking the same language.
It creates a tremendous amount of operational friction. Think about what a misaligned meeting looks like.
Okay, paint the picture.
The marketing team comes in, throws a spreadsheet on the table, and celebrates their low cost per click metrics. They say, we generated 500 leads this month. Then the sales team looks at that same spreadsheet and says, these leads are garbage, nobody answers the phone, and the 3 people I did talk to have no budget.
And while they are busy arguing over who is at fault, the consumer is slipping away to a competitor who actually has their act together.
Exactly.
And consumer behavior makes bridging this gap even harder. Our sources highlight an incredible tension here. Across every single demographic generation, people are 3 to 8 times more likely to prefer a text message from a business over a phone call.
Yes.
And over 40% of people between the ages of 30 and 50 report being almost constantly online.
They are hyper-connected. They are staring at screens from the moment they wake up until the moment they go to sleep, yet they remain completely unreachable by traditional means.
Right. So here is my major pushback on this entire methodology. If 90% of people prefer a text and 90% of people absolutely will not answer a cold phone call, why did we just conclude a few minutes ago that we have to pick up the phone?
I know, it sounds contradictory.
Aren't we directly fighting human nature? It feels like we're telling the listener to go back to the exact interruption marketing we just declared was dead.
It's a crucial distinction to make, and the nuance here is everything. You are right. You have to respect the consumer's fortress. You cannot just batter down the door with a cold call.
Right.
But you still need to get inside the fortress to make the sale.
So how do you get in without triggering the alarms?
You use the medium they prefer to secure permission for the medium you need. The text message or the direct message or the automated email that is the tool you use to break the ice.
Okay, that makes sense.
It is low friction for the consumer. They can read a text while in a meeting or at a red light. It doesn't demand their immediate, undivided attention the way a ringing phone does.
Right.
But, and this is the critical part, the text message cannot do the heavy lifting of the complex sale.
Ah, I see. So the text message opens the door, but the phone call walks you into the living room and sits you down on the couch.
Precisely. You use the text to schedule the voice-to-voice interaction. A proper sequence looks like this. A lead fills out a form. Within 60 seconds, an automated text goes out.
Hi, I saw you requested info on the new software platform. Do you have 5 minutes at 2 p.m. today to see if it's a fit?
Exactly. You are asking for micro-commitments.
Yes.
The text gets the yes. It establishes the appointment. But the actual phone call or the Zoom meeting is where the heavy lifting occurs. That is where the deep trust is built.
Right, where you can actually read the situation.
That's where you hear the hesitation in their voice when you mention the price, allowing you to uncover the real objection. You cannot negotiate a complex deal or navigate deep-seated financial anxieties over a text thread. The nuances of human emotion just don't translate to SMS.
So if you were listening to this right now and thinking about your own business, you need to diagnose your specific bottleneck.
Yes.
The book frames this as a choose-your-own-adventure, which is a highly practical way to audit your operations.
You can't fix everything at once. You have to look at your funnel objectively. If you simply lack leads coming in, you have a marketing problem.
Right.
You need to focus on top-of-funnel attraction strategies, creating better content, and running better ads. If you have plenty of leads but absolutely nobody is engaging, You have a contact problem.
Yeah, that speed to lead issue.
You need to focus on your initial speed to lead and your testing strategy to break the ice and get permission.
And if you are getting plenty of people on the phone, but nobody is buying, you have a sales problem.
Exactly.
You need to focus on your script, your tone, your ability to handle objections, and your closing techniques. Don't waste time trying to fix marketing if your sales transmission is broken. Find the specific leak in your funnel and patch it.
But to patch those leaks permanently and not just slap a temporary Band-Aid on them,
Yeah.
you need a holistic system. The conversion code isn't a single sneaky tactic or a magic script.
Right.
It is what happens when three very specific disciplines perfectly overlap.
The intersection. Let's break down how this theory becomes an actual functioning machine. We are looking at the convergence of marketing, sales, and technology.
Yes.
When those three elements are aligned, you crack the code. But what does that actually look like in practice? Let's contrast how the absolute best companies handle this versus the rest of the pack.
The text provides some really stark data contrasting elite companies, those reporting world-class lead conversion metrics, and average companies.
Okay, lay it on us.
Let's start with the sales pillar, the ability to simply communicate what you do. The data shows that 79% of elite companies can effectively present features and benefits.
So they just know their stuff.
Right. Their salespeople know the product inside and out and can articulate it persuasively. Compare that to only 49% of average companies. Half of average companies have sales reps who literally struggle to explain what the product does.
That's astonishing. Before we even get to complex persuasion, the elite companies are just having much clearer, more competent conversations right out of the gate.
But the real divergence happens when we move from features to pricing. Can your sales team sell value to avoid excessive discounting?
Oh, that is the holy grail of business. Nobody wants to compete purely on price. It's a miserable race to the bottom.
Totally.
But how do they actually do it? What is the mechanical difference between a rep who sells value and one who discounts?
The statistics first. 73% of elite companies can effectively sell value and protect their margins, versus only 30% of average companies.
Wow.
Mechanically, selling value means shifting the focus of the conversation away from the cost of the product and onto the financial or emotional impact of the problem.
Give me a concrete scenario. Let's say we are selling a $10,000 B2B consulting package.
Okay? An average sales rep hears a prospect say $10,000 is too much. The average rep panics, wants to save the deal, and immediately says, well, I can offer you a 15% discount if you sign today.
Right. They instantly devalue the product. They caved before the fight even started.
Right. Now look at the elite rep. The prospect says $10,000 is too much. The elite rep doesn't offer a discount. They pivot to the value.
How so?
They say, I understand it's a significant investment, but earlier in our call, you mentioned that your current inefficiency is costing you roughly $50,000 a quarter in lost revenue. Is it worth a one-time investment of $10,000 to permanently retrieve that $50,000?
Wow. They completely reframed the math.
Exactly. They aren't selling a $10,000 package, they are selling a $50,000 solution. The average company caves because they haven't built that value equation into the conversation. The elite company holds firm because they understand the leverage.
Okay, so that's the sales pillar. You have reps who can clearly articulate features and rigorously defend value.
Right.
But how does that overlap with the technology and marketing pillars to create the full conversion machine?
The overlap happens in what the industry calls a managed lead-to-revenue process. Overall, companies that implement this process experience 50% higher revenue growth than companies that don't.
Let's define that, though, because managed lead to revenue process sounds like, corporate jargon. What is actually happening behind the scenes?
It means there is no manual data entry, no drop balls, and no delay. A prospect clicks a highly targeted Facebook ad at 11:00 p.m. That is the marketing pillar.
Okay.
Instantly, the technology takes over. The lead's information is seamlessly routed into a CRM, a customer relationship management system, which acts as the central brain of the company.
Right.
CRM instantly analyzes the lead, triggers an automated text message to the prospect to acknowledge them, and simultaneously pings the specific sales rep's phone via an app.
That's the engine working.
Exactly. At 8 a.m. the next morning, the rep has a notification telling them exactly who the lead is, what ad they clicked, and what script to use. That is the technology pillar handing the baton to the sales pillar.
I want to use an analogy here to lock this in for the listener. Think of your business like a high-performance vehicle.
Okay, I'm with you.
Marketing is the fuel. It's the high-octane content, the targeted ads. The social media presence that provides the raw energy for the whole operation.
Yeah.
Technology is the engine. It's the CRM, the automated routing, the webhooks, the tracking data that makes sure the fuel is combusting efficiently and being directed to the right place.
Spot on.
And sales.
Yeah.
Sales is the transmission. It's the human element that actually takes all that raw combusting power and applies it to the road to move the car forward.
I love how that maps out the dependencies.
Right, because if your transmission is shot, if your salespeople can't overcome objections or defend your pricing, it absolutely does not matter how premium your marketing fuel is or how sophisticated your tech engine is.
Yep.
The car isn't going anywhere. You are just sitting in the driveway, revving the engine and burning cash.
Which brings us to the ultimate operational takeaway. You have to stop treating marketing and sales as separate silos. You cannot have the fuel department fighting with the transmission department. You must build a unified system. Marketing's job doesn't end the moment a lead submits a form. It ends when the salesperson is armed with enough contextual data to have a great conversation.
Exactly.
And sales' job isn't to sit back and complain about lead quality. It's to leverage the technology to respond with blinding speed and execute the conversation with expert precision.
Okay, so we have the vehicle built. The marketing fuel, the tech engine, and the sales transmission are perfectly aligned. The system is ready.
Ready to roll.
But where do we actually point the car? If we are in this privacy-first world, how do we know who to target?
To answer that, the source material introduces a mental model called the opportunity circle. Think of your potential market as 3 distinct groups orbiting your business.
Okay.
The innermost circle, the absolute center, represents the people who actually hire you, your clients, your current paying customers.
Bullseye.
Yes, but that's the smallest group. Step out 1 level to the middle circle, this group is significantly larger.
Who's in this one?
It represents the people who know you but haven't hired you yet. Think about your own database. These are your social media followers, the people who subscribe to your email newsletter, or past leads who went cold.
Ah, I see.
They are aware of your existence. They might even like your content, but they haven't crossed the threshold of trust to actually buy.
So they are caught in your gravitational pull, but they haven't landed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you have the massive outer circle. This is the largest pool by far. These are the strangers. They have the exact problem your business solves. They have the financial capacity to pay you, but they have absolutely no idea who you are.
So the entire strategic goal of the conversion code is essentially gravitational.
Right.
We want to systematically pull people inward. We use marketing to draw strangers from the outer circle into the middle circle of awareness, turning them into followers and subscribers.
Right.
Then we use technology and sales to pull those acquaintances from the middle circle into the inner circle of paying clients.
That is the exact mechanism. But it's not just a mechanical process. It requires a massive shift in mindset. To execute that gravitational pull effectively, you have to adopt specific philosophies for each stage of the journey. The text outlines these as the creeds.
Let's break these down because they really dictate the culture of how a team executes this strategy. Let's start with the team generating the fuel, the marketer's creed.
The very first tenet of the marketer's creed is perhaps the most important rule in modern digital business. Leads are people too.
I want to spend a minute on this one because when you are sitting behind a computer monitor, looking at a Google Analytics dashboard or scrolling through a CRM, it is dangerously easy to just see rows of data.
It's so easy.
You look at a screen and see lead hashtag 402, source, Facebook ad, time on site, 3 minutes, status, uncontacted. When you look at that long enough, you completely forget that behind that specific IP address is a living, breathing human being.
Totally.
A human being with a mortgage, a family, a specific set of daily anxieties, and a very real problem they are desperately trying to solve.
And the moment you forget they are human, your marketing becomes toxic. You start treating them like numbers to be manipulated.
Right.
You blast them with generic spam, you use clickbait, you prioritize your quota over their experience. But when you internalize that leads are people too, your marketing becomes empathetic.
It changes everything.
It really does. You start answering the specific questions they are afraid to ask. You provide immense value up front before you ever ask for the sale. The rest of the marketer's creed supports this. Image is everything, social media is the internet, analytics are overrated, and every word counts.
Wow.
It's about meticulously crafting a digital presence that a skeptical human being would actually feel safe interacting with.
It's about respecting the person on the other side of the screen. So the marketing team adopts this empathetic mindset. What about the people actually making the contact? What is the creed for the frontline sales team?
That brings us to the ISA's creed, the inside sales agent. Their tenets include every second matters, which emphasizes the critical importance of lightning-fast response times when a lead raises their hand.
Speed to lead.
Exactly. But the most striking tenet is zero cold calls.
Which circles all the way back to the beginning of our deep dive. No more interrupting strangers during dinner.
Exactly. The marketing team's job is to pull people into the middle circle, so the sales team is only ever calling warm leads who have explicitly expressed some level of interest.
Right.
They are calling people who want to be called. Their creed also includes human companies win, and the fortune is in the follow-up. Their mindset is rooted in building genuine relationships, not just burning through a list of phone numbers.
And finally, we have the closer's creed. The mindset of the person who actually secures the revenue and brings the prospect into the inner circle.
The standout tenet here is yes is not an accident.
I love the accountability in that phrase. It completely removes the concept of luck from the sales process.
It forces the closer to take ownership. Closing a complex deal isn't about hoping the prospect happens to be in a good mood that day.
Right.
It's about a systematic, deeply psychological process of uncovering pain and presenting a solution. The closer's creed reiterates that conversations create clients, but it introduces a vital instruction. Dig deep or go to sleep.
What does that mean in practice? Digging deep.
It means surface-level questions won't close a high-ticket deal. If a prospect says, I want to buy new software to improve efficiency, an average rep accepts that answer and starts pitching.
Yeah, they just jump right in.
But an elite closer digs deep. They ask, why is efficiency a priority right now? What happens if you don't improve it? How is the current inefficiency affecting your staff's morale?
Oh, those are tough questions.
If you aren't asking profound, sometimes uncomfortable questions to find out the emotional why behind their purchase, you will lose the sale. You have to take charge of the conversation.
So let's bring this directly to you, the listener. You need to audit your current database and your current operations based on this opportunity circle and these creeds.
Absolutely.
Look at your CRM. Where is everyone sitting? Are you treating your outer circle with empathy? Are you following up with your middle circle fast enough?
You have to ask those hard questions.
Build a deliberate, documented strategy to move strangers to acquaintances and acquaintances to clients. Treat every single row of data in your spreadsheet as a human being who requires real, earned trust before they are ever going to open their wallet.
And if we synthesize everything we've unpacked today, the tectonic shift of the privacy revolution, the death of old-school brute force spam, the necessity of picking up the phone for high-ticket sales, the Venn diagram of aligning marketing, tech, and sales, and the empathetic psychology of the creeds, we arrive at one very clear, memorable insight.
Right.
It really represents the absolute soul of this entire methodology.
Let's have it. After all this analysis, what is the core truth of the conversion code?
Ultimately, the modern conversion code isn't some collection of sneaky digital hacks designed to trick people or bypass human interaction.
Right.
It is the exact polar opposite. It is about using highly targeted, deeply empathetic marketing paired with seamless, lightning-fast technology to earn the absolute privilege of having a meaningful human conversation with someone who actually wants to buy what you are selling.
Earning the privilege. That is such a powerful reframing. You aren't tricking them. You are serving them so incredibly well during the marketing stage that they want to talk to your sales team. You are replacing friction with trust.
Precisely. You are building a unified system that fundamentally respects their privacy, respects their time, and ultimately provides a solution to their problem.
Yeah.
When you do that, the digital fortress they built to keep marketers out suddenly opens its gates for you.
It's a completely different way to view business. So now that we know the code requires drawing people out of that massive anonymous outer circle and pulling them into our specific orbit, the very first thing we need is an irresistible landing pad for them.
We definitely do.
We need the digital equivalent of a brilliantly designed, highly welcoming storefront. Which brings us to the fascinating, eye-tracking science of designing a website that builds instant trust and captures data without feeling invasive. But, well, that is a deep dive for next time. why do nearly 90% of people completely ignore their ringing phones?
Yeah.
And I mean, why do only a dismal 3% of consumers actually say they trust salespeople?
It's a brutal statistic.
It really is. Like, if you just look at those raw numbers, making a living by selling anything to anyone seems mathematically impossible right now.
Completely impossible.
But, and this is the wild part, if you look at the upper echelon of business right now, the top performers are converting leads at absolute record-breaking rates.
Oh, they're crushing it.
Right. So the era of that brute force, annoying, spammy marketing, it is completely dead. It was killed off by this massive wave of privacy changes. But a few elite operators have cracked a new code. So today, we are tearing down the blueprint they use to navigate this new privacy-first internet.
Right.
And specifically, our mission for this deep dive is to unpack the core concepts from Chapter 2, which is titled Same Scenario, Different Rep. We are going to show you exactly how to attract warm leads when you can't rely on invasive tracking anymore.
Yeah, that tracking is gone.
Gone. We'll show you how to follow up without crossing the line into being annoying, and most importantly, how to execute a very specific psychological script designed to bypass human hesitation. So whether you are out there scaling a tech startup, running a freelance business, or, you're just fascinated by the mechanics of modern persuasion, this chapter completely changes how you will view every single transaction.
It really does. I mean, it is the ultimate modern business paradox, right?
Oh, for sure.
We possess the technology to be universally connected to anyone on Earth. Yet the average consumer has never been more heavily fortified against being reached. I mean, the old playbook didn't just slowly evolve. It was completely incinerated out of sheer necessity.
Yeah.
Because the consumer, they waged this quiet war for their privacy over the last decade, and they decisively won.
They won big time. Let's actually quantify that victory for a second, because the data paints a picture of, total ecosystem collapse for traditional marketers.
Oh, total collapse.
We are talking about Apple's iOS 14.5 update. When that rolled out and people were finally handed the actual agency to decide if they wanted an app to track their activity across the web, 96% of people opted out.
Yeah.
96%.
It functioned as a digital earthquake. Seriously. And it was a coordinated global shift, too.
Right. Europe, too.
Exactly. When the General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR, went into effect over there, it spawned all those cookie consent banners we have to navigate daily now.
Oh, the ones you just mindlessly click away from.
Right. The behavioral data reveals that 89% of people either completely ignore those banners, close them, or actively reject the tracking cookies. I mean, only a fringe 11% actually click to accept.
That is wild. And it's not just isolated to our digital footprints on the web. It's happening on our physical devices, like our actual phones.
Oh, definitely.
The FCC reported that U.S. consumers were fielding nearly 4 billion robocalls per month.
4 billion a month.
Yeah. That's absurd. And that sheer volume forced phone carriers to fundamentally alter their own infrastructure. They implemented this heavy filtering, automatically intercepting calls and branding them as, scam likely.
Yeah, the dreaded scam likely caller ID.
Yeah.
So if we map out the functional outcome of all these events, iOS updates, GDPR, the robocall filters, we essentially see the complete dismantling of the targeted advertising infrastructure.
Right.
And consider the Department of Housing and Urban Development lawsuit against Facebook over housing discrimination. I mean, regardless of the politics surrounding that suit, the functional result for marketers was the removal of massive amounts of targeted ad filters.
They just stripped the tools away.
Completely.
Yeah.
So if you are, say, a real estate agent or a local service provider, you can no longer target your ads by those hyper-specific zip codes or demographic markers. Those granular tools just vanished overnight.
Okay, so let's unpack this for a second. If the radar is jammed, right, and we are flying blind without that granular data, isn't digital marketing just throwing darts in the dark now? Because the old methodology was basically a heat-seeking missile. You knew the exact coordinates of your target.
Right.
How do you hunt when your navigational instruments are just broken?
Well, that's the thing. You have to abandon the concept of hunting entirely.
Really?
Yes.
Yes.
That is the fundamental philosophical shift required to actually survive this transition. Because you can no longer just buy your way into a prospect's life through that invasive micro-targeted surveillance. The entire mechanism has to pivot. It has to pivot from chasing to attracting.
From chasing to attracting.
Exactly. And this brings us to a framework from the source material that we can call the opportunity circle. So I want you to picture 3 concentric rings, kind of like a target.
Okay, I have the visual. 3 rings.
Right. So the tiny center circle, that represents the active buyers. These are the people ready to hire you or purchase your product today.
The hottest leads.
Right. Then the middle ring consists of people who are aware of you, but they haven't bought yet. They're warming up. And then that massive outer ring, the largest segment, by far represents the people who have absolutely no idea you even exist.
Right. And if I'm looking at the average business out there, they are dumping their entire marketing budget into fighting over that tiny center circle.
Oh, 100%.
They are bidding up ad costs to insane levels just to reach that 1% who are ready to swipe a credit card right now.
Precisely. And they are doing it with a highly skeptical, completely exhausted audience. But the elite operators, the ones that chapter focuses on, they realize the real leverage, the exponential revenue that actually lies in moving people from the massive outer don't know you ring, gently warming them up in the middle know you ring, and guiding them naturally to the center.
Ah, I see.
Since you must rely on attraction now, the very first touch point a prospect has with your brand has to do an absurd amount of heavy lifting. It has to manufacture trust instantaneously.
Which directly challenges, like, the oldest cliche in the whole industry, right? Content is king.
Oh yeah, that's dead.
The reality of the modern web is that design is queen. And as we know on the chessboard, the queen is infinitely more dangerous.
I love that analogy. It's so true.
I mean, humans process visual information 60,000 times faster than text. You could write the most persuasive, academically rigorous, brilliant copy on Earth.
Right.
But if your landing page looks like a broken GeoCities site from 1998, my brain instantly registers it as a threat.
Exactly.
I'm gone in 50 milliseconds. We operate with this microwave mindset. We demand instant synthesis, and we assess credibility visually before we read a single word.
And a design-first methodology isn't about mere aesthetics. It's not just making things pretty. It is about establishing immediate psychological safety. Yes. If the visual language signals competence and security, the prospect lowers their guard. And because of this microwave mindset you mentioned, capturing attention requires tactics meticulously engineered for the specific architecture of individual platforms.
Okay, let's dissect those platform mechanics, because this is where the execution gets really cool. Take Facebook, for instance. A common strategy now is something called Facebook phishing. And this relies on one-to-one intimacy in the direct messages rather than just broadcasting out to the newsfeed.
Right, because it capitalizes on the algorithm's preference for authentic engagement.
Exactly.
So instead of running a sterile automated ad, an entrepreneur posts something highly specific and valuable on their personal profile, but they gate it behind a simple DM request.
So it's not a link in the bio.
No link. So for example, a financial advisor might post, hey, I spent the weekend building a tax optimization checklist for freelancers. You don't need to be a client to use it. Just send me a message if you want the PDF.
That is so smart. It transforms a cold corporate broadcast into a warm human-to-human conversation right in their inbox.
Exactly. You start a real dialogue.
But what if you need to build loyalty that just completely defies logic? There is a fascinating case study in the text involving an agent named Alex Wang.
Oh, the Alex Wang strategy is brilliant.
It's mind-blowing. So he monitors his network on social media, actively waiting for his clients to post vacation photos.
Right.
Now, the average professional, if they do anything at all, they drop a generic, looks like fun comment on the photo, or maybe they rely on some automated happy birthday email campaign.
Which nobody cares about.
Exactly. But Alex, he reverse engineers their location from the photo, calls the specific hotel they are staying at, and has a bottle of wine or a premium dessert sent directly to their room.
It is the flawless execution of Paul Graham's foundational startup advice, which is do things that don't scale.
Yes.
You cannot build an algorithm to send physical wine to a specific hotel room in Tuscany based on an Instagram post. It requires human friction, and that friction is exactly why it resonates so deeply. It pierces the digital noise by upgrading the client's physical, lived experience in the real world.
Okay, so Facebook phishing and those unscalable gifts, they rely on one-to-one intimacy. But what if you're out there launching a new product and you need the crowd to do the heavy lifting for you? How do you engineer virality when you don't have a massive six-figure ad budget to just force distribution?
Well, on platforms designed for rapid information dissemination like Twitter or X, you use the 30-second window technique.
The 30-second window.
Right. When you have a high-value resource, you don't just paste the download link out into the void for anyone to click. You create a barrier to entry that requires social capital.
Oh, I see.
So you post something like, I just finished a 50-page deep dive on SaaS pricing models. If you want early access, retweet this and I will DM you the private link.
So you are basically weaponizing their desire for the content to hijack their audience network.
Weaponizing is a strong word, but yes, essentially. They get the resource they want, but the cost of admission is broadcasting your authority to their entire following.
Wow.
You engineer organic reach, and on professional networks like LinkedIn, you leverage the psychological law of reciprocity through a strategy we can call recommend and recruit.
Okay, how does that work?
You proactively visit the profiles of former colleagues, vendors, or even peripheral connections, and you write them glowing, highly detailed recommendations.
And you don't ask for an endorsement trade, right? You don't say, hey, I'll write you one if you write me one.
No, not at all. You just inject immense value into their professional profile for absolutely nothing in return. You do it completely unprompted.
That's powerful.
It is. Because when you elevate someone's professional reputation publicly like that, the goodwill generated is monumental. The cognitive bias of reciprocity practically guarantees that when you eventually have an ask down the line, maybe a product launch or a hiring need, those individuals will move mountains to support you. Why?
Yeah.
Because you supported them when they offered you no immediate utility.
It's banking social karma.
All right, so let's map the trajectory so far for the listener. Your visual design was flawless. Your unscalable social strategies worked. The prospect opted in. They actually handed over their email or their phone number.
A huge win.
A massive win. But because of that microwave mindset we talked about, the half-life of their attention is about 5 minutes. So how you follow up in the immediate aftermath basically dictates the entire game.
Completely. The velocity of the follow-up is the single greatest predictor of conversion.
Velocity.
Yes. The data reveals an astonishing decay in contact rates if you delay even a few hours. I mean, it drops off a cliff. However, raw speed is useless if it lacks context.
Right, because nobody wants a fast but irrelevant email. Exactly. The transition here is moving away from those generic automated drips. You know, the ones where a prospect receives an email every Tuesday at 9 a.m., regardless of what they're actually doing.
I hate those.
We all do. You have to move to behavior-based follow-up.
Okay, meaning the system is actually watching their digital body language.
Exactly. It pings you to reach out the exact moment the prospect reopens an old proposal, or clicks a specific pricing link, or watches a specific video tutorial on your site.
So you are intercepting them when the exact problem you solve is actively occupying their cognitive bandwidth?
Precisely. You are aligning your outreach with their current intent. And there are two highly specific, somewhat aggressive tactics used to break through crowded inboxes once you have that intent data. The first is called the double tap.
A double tap.
Yes, this involves sending a highly segmented important email and then instantaneously sending a text message that says, hey, just sent you an email with the brief you requested, didn't want it to get buried in your spam folder.
Okay, wait, I have to push back on this a little.
Go for it.
My phone is a sacred space.
Totally.
If a brand, even a brand I actively like, texts me the exact second after they email me, I am immediately unsubscribing. What is the psychological difference between a high-value alert and an absolute invasion of privacy? Where is the exact line there?
It's a great question. The line is entirely dictated by the perceived scarcity and the utility of the deliverable.
Okay.
If you double tap a prospect to say, hey, check out our newest newsletter, you are a nuisance. You are just asking for their time.
Right.
But if you double tap to say, I just emailed you the VIP login credentials you specifically asked for, or I sent the private link to the off-market listing before it goes public to everyone else, the psychology completely flips. You aren't intruding anymore. You are providing white glove concierge service. You are signaling that the asset is so valuable, it requires secondary security. It is reserved exclusively for high leverage moments.
Okay, that distinction is crucial. You are framing the text as a protective measure for their benefit, not just a promotional broadcast for yours.
Exactly.
Okay, what's the second tactic?
The second one is even more fascinating from a behavioral standpoint. It's called the apology email.
The apology email.
Yes. This is a campaign where the subject line is deliberately alarming. Something like, we screwed up, or please accept my apology.
Oh, wow.
Right. And the body copy reads something like, I completely forgot to notify you about the major sale we ran last week. That is my fault. So to make it up to you, I've reactivated your specific discount code for the next 24 hours.
That is brilliant.
The open rates on this structure are astronomical, and it works entirely because of the negativity bias hardwired into the human brain.
It's the evolutionary pull of a mistake. Like, we are so conditioned to expect highly polished, sterilized, perfect corporate communication. When a brand breaks that cadence and actually emits a fault, it shatters the pattern.
Done.
It's the digital equivalent of rubbernecking at a car crash. We literally cannot help but look at the vulnerability.
Exactly. It humanizes the sender instantly.
Right.
Now, obviously, this is a nuclear option.
Right. You can't do this every week.
No. If you use it quarterly, you become the boy who cried wolf, and your list will just churn and burn. But as a surgical tool to resuscitate a completely dormant segment of your database, leveraging that negativity bias is remarkably effective.
Okay, so the architecture of the funnel has worked perfectly.
Yes.
The marketing attracted them, the behavior-based follow-up engaged them, and now the moment of truth. Their phone is ringing, they see your number, and they actually pick up.
Here we go.
You have 60 seconds to establish control. Welcome to the boiler room. Let's really dive into Chapter 2's focus. Same scenario, different rep.
This is the precise threshold where marketing theory ends
Yeah.
and high-stakes sales psychology actually begins. The foundational doctrine of mastering the phone is the IASM formula.
IASM.
Yes, which stands for I am sold myself.
I'm sold myself. Let's visualize the data on this because it is so critical for anyone listening. If you map a successful sales call on a timeline, there is this invisible threshold called the buying line. Your absolute mandate as the rep is to elevate the prospect's emotional enthusiasm above the cost of the product before you ever reveal the price.
Exactly. If you introduce the price while their enthusiasm is still below that buying line, the friction is just too high, and the sale dies right there.
It's over.
The analytics on call lengths prove this definitively, by the way. Elite closers, the top performers, do not discuss price until somewhere between minutes 38 and 46 of a conversation.
Wow.
Average, struggling representatives, they drop the price between minutes 13 and 19.
Because the average reps are panicking. They feel the silence. They feel like they're being an imposition on the person's day, so they just rush to the transaction.
Yes, they act like order takers at a drive-thru rather than actual diagnosticians.
And a massive part of getting someone over that emotional buying line relies on Albert Mehrabian's 73855 rule.
Oh, the Moravian rule is everything here.
Break it down for us.
So Mehrabian's research isolated exactly how humans process emotional communication. And he found that only 7% of meaning is derived from the actual words spoken.
Just 7%.
7%. 38% is transmitted through your tone of voice and your inflection. And a staggering 55% is decoded through visual body language.
But, and here's the catastrophic problem for a salesperson. You are on a phone call.
Right.
That 55% visual processing element is instantly wiped off the board. You are basically operating in a sensory deprivation tank.
Exactly. Which means your tone of voice can no longer just carry 38% of the weight. It has to suddenly absorb the massive void left by the missing body language. Tone becomes the entire battlefield.
It's everything.
If your cadence signals boredom or desperation, or, worst of all, reads like a heavily rehearsed script, the brilliance of your 7% vocabulary is entirely irrelevant. The prospect's mammalian brain will categorize you as a telemarketer and just shut down.
So, to manufacture the specific confidence required to nail that tone, you have to execute what's called a pre-call stock.
Yes, but there is a very specific methodology here. You do not just run a generic Google search on the prospect's name.
Right, like if you search David Miller, the internet is going to hand you 40 million completely useless results.
Exactly. You search their specific email address. An email address is a unique cryptographic key to a person's digital life. Searching the exact address surfaces their specific LinkedIn profile, their public social media footprints, maybe their company directory bio. Within like 120 seconds, you can extract 2 highly relevant data points to completely shatter the generic cold call opening.
Because instead of the default agonizing, "Hey, David, how are you doing today?"
Which screams telemarketer.
Right. You open with, "David, I was just looking at your recent post on the logistics supply chain fascinating angle on the port delays." It proves in the first 10 seconds that you are speaking to them individually, not just reading the next row on an automated dialer spreadsheet.
It earns you the right to proceed. That's what it does. And once that fleeting human connection is made, you must immediately transition into establishing psychological authority.
And the technique for this is a pattern interrupt. Right. So right after that customized greeting, you say, "I have some highly specific information regarding your account that you'll want to write down. Grab a pen and paper and let me know when you're ready."
It is a profound micro shift in the power dynamics.
It's conversational dominance.
It really is.
Most salespeople enter a call with a subservient posture. They are audibly begging for 5 minutes of the prospect's time. But by issuing a mild physical command, literally demanding they stand up, find a pen, and prepare to take notes, you position yourself as the prize.
Right. You're the doctor entering the examination room to deliver a diagnosis.
And if they refuse to grab a pen at minute 2, there is a 0% probability they are going to grab their wallet at minute 40.
It acts as an immediate compliance test. Now, assuming they pass and they have their pen, you are rapidly going to encounter the first defensive barrier.
No.
Yes. The prospect will attempt to derail your structured process. They will throw a brick wall statement at you, something like, listen, I just want to know what the onboarding fee is, or just tell me if your software integrates with Salesforce.
Because they want the logical data so they can hang up.
Exactly.
And if you just give them the data, the call is over. To neutralize this, the chapter outlines a framework called ARPing. Acknowledge, respond, pivot.
ARPing.
Yeah. And ARPing isn't just nodding along, it's conversational judo. When they throw a punch like an objection asking for the price, you don't block it and hit a wall. You acknowledge it, you grab their momentum, and you redirect that kinetic energy into your own move with a pivot question.
Let's pressure test this.
Okay?
I will play the role of the highly impatient, aggressive prospect.
Yeah.
We are 2 minutes into the call. Look, I don't have a lot of time. I just need to know what your monthly licensing fee is.
Okay, here we go. Acknowledge. You just need to know the monthly licensing fee, completely understand.
Good.
Respond. I will make sure we go over all the pricing tiers in detail so you know exactly what the investment looks like.
Okay.
Pivot. But before I give you a quote that might be totally inaccurate, tell me, how many users on your team are currently bottlenecked by your legacy software?
It's seamless. I mean, the acknowledge satisfies my ego. I feel heard. The respond is a vague but affirmative promise. You committed to giving me the price, which reduces my anxiety.
Right.
And the pivot utilizes my momentum to wrestle control right back, forcing my brain to answer a complex question about my operational pain points.
You use their energy to steer the conversation exactly where you need it to go. The discovery phase, which the source material refers to as digging deep.
Digging deep.
And the data on this is unequivocal. Successful sales calls are 45% longer than failed ones. Elite reps are sitting in the pocket for 45 to 60 minutes. They are operating like investigative journalists.
They are hunting for the core emotional driver. And the difference between an order taker and a true closer is perfectly illustrated by the $50,000 deck scenario in Chapter 2.
I love this case study. Walk us through the order taker first.
Okay. So a prospect calls a financial institution and states, I need to open a home equity line of credit for $50,000.
Okay.
The average representative, the order taker, says, wonderful, we can process that. What is the capital being used for? The prospect replies, I'm building a new deck on the back of my house. The order taker simply checks a box on their form and says, great, let's pull your credit score and look at interest rates.
They gathered the logical facts, but they accumulated zero emotional leverage.
None.
They are essentially selling a commodity loan that can be undercut by any competitor by 0.5%. Now, how does a closer handle the exact same scenario? Same scenario, different rep.
The closer hears the word deck and immediately digs deep. The closer leans in and says, wait, you are dropping $50,000 on a deck. What is this thing constructed out of? Imported mahogany. Does it have a built-in helipad? Why on earth are you spending 50 grand on a deck?
And what does the prospect do? They laugh.
Yes.
They drop the corporate armor. They say, no helipad, but my husband just made partner at the firm. After 10 years of grinding, we finally have the capital, and we have always dreamed of hosting these massive neighborhood summer parties. This is our dream entertaining space.
Notice the massive paradigm shift there.
It's huge.
The order taker is trying to sell a boring interest rate. The closer is now selling status, celebration, and the realization of a decade-long dream. They have successfully excavated the emotional why buried underneath the logical what.
And building that kind of unguarded rapport requires authentic human matching, which leads to one of the most surprising psychological data points we've uncovered. There is an 8% increase in closing rates when both the salesperson and the prospect curse during the call.
Yeah, that stat always shocks people. It highlights the mechanics of tribal signaling.
Right. So, to be completely clear, I shouldn't just start dropping F-bombs on my next B2B Zoom pitch to artificially inflate my close rate, right?
No, absolutely not. Forced profanity is catastrophic.
Yeah.
It's so cringe-inducing.
Right.
What the data reveals is the power of unmasking. Corporate cadence is a mask. It's formal, guarded, and sterile.
Yeah.
When a prospect feels psychologically safe enough with you to drop a mild swear word because they are passionately describing a painful operational bottleneck, they're taking off the mask.
They're venting.
Exactly. If you reciprocate by matching that exact casual, unguarded tone, perhaps reflecting their language back to them, you send a powerful tribal signal. It translates to, "We are peers. We are speaking off the corporate script now. I'm in your in-group."
You are matching their authentic energy, which rapidly accelerates trust. And once you hold that trust and you have mapped their deepest emotional motivations, you have to preemptively dismantle their fears before you ever ask for a signature. This is the art of proactive objections.
The amateur dreads the objection at the end of the call. They view it as an ambush. The master actively invites the objection into the middle of the room long before the formal presentation even begins.
Right, and the transition mechanism is this beautifully constructed question. If we are able to design a solution that accomplishes your goals and you agree the math makes sense, is there any reason you wouldn't be able to move forward with us today?
You are smoking out the hidden landmines.
Yes.
If there's a structural impediment, for example, well, I can't authorize anything over $10,000 without my co-founder's signature, they will reveal it right then.
Which gives you the opportunity to secure the spouse or the co-founder. The analytics show that having the entire buying committee present on the call increases the likelihood of closing by 258%.
258%. Pitching to half a decision-making unit is just statistical suicide.
It really is.
But consider the alternative outcome of that proactive question. What if they respond, "No, if the solution makes sense, I have the authority to move forward today"?
They have stepped into the trap of consistency bias.
Exactly.
They have verbally committed to their own autonomy. It becomes psychologically agonizing for them to invent a fake stall tactic like, oh, I need to think about it at the end of the call, because doing so would directly contradict their own prior statement.
Yes, you are laying down a breadcrumb trail of micro-commitments.
Which flows seamlessly into the technique known as the 5 yeses. You aggregate all the emotional pain points and desires you uncovered during the digging deep phase, the dream deck for the neighborhood parties, the need to hit the contractor's deadline, and you feed them back to the prospect as a series of closed questions. So you say, earlier you mentioned you wanted to host the neighborhood parties this summer. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you stated you needed the capital liquid within 30 days to lock in your contractor. Correct. Yes.
You aren't coercing them. You are merely facilitating an environment where they verbally affirm the reality they themselves constructed.
Yeah.
Getting a human to say yes 5 consecutive times alters their neurochemistry. It establishes a physiological pattern of agreement.
Wow. And to cement that reality right before you reveal the price, you leverage co-branding. This is a psychological shortcut where you align your potentially unknown service with a universally trusted monolith.
It's a great tactic.
So, if your SaaS platform runs on Amazon Web Services, you explicitly mention AWS security protocols. If your financial methodology is backed by a Wharton School of Business study, you mentioned Wharton, you are functionally borrowing their multi-billion-dollar credibility and wearing it as a shield.
And so the value is built, the credibility is locked, and the objections are cleared. You are entering the 4th quarter.
It is time to execute the close.
And this is where we see the most pervasive, fatal error in modern sales.
Oh, it hurts to watch.
A representative delivers a brilliant, tailored presentation, they reveal the price, and then they deflate entirely by asking, "So what do you think?" Or, "How does all that sound to you?"
It reeks of imposter syndrome. You are asking the prospect to act as a judge, evaluating your performance, rather than a buyer making a decision. You are handing the locus of control entirely over to them.
Yes. The operational mantra here, and it's a quote I love from the book, is, "The lion doesn't ask the lamb for food."
The lion doesn't ask the lamb for food.
You do not request a review of your pitch.
Yeah.
You assume the inevitability of the transaction. The only acceptable transition is, "Great, so here's exactly what happens next."
You confidently outline the immediate onboarding steps, summarize the core deliverables, state the price with absolute vocal certainty, and transition directly into the slot close.
Slot close. This eliminates the binary, "Do you want to buy?" question.
Right, because that invites a no.
Exactly. Instead, you present a choice. where either option assumes the sale has already occurred.
Like, did you prefer to use a corporate card or an ACH transfer for the initial deposit?
Or should we schedule the technical kickoff for Tuesday morning or Thursday afternoon?
Right. Now, at this precise juncture, the prospects will offer one of two things: a buying question or a final, hard objection. And to navigate this, you abandon the ARPing technique and switch to airsing.
ARC. Acknowledge, respond, close.
This distinction is so critical. Earlier, when they threw a brick wall statement at us, we pivoted away from it with a new question to buy time. Now, at the finish line, we close.
Exactly. Let's role play the ARC.
Let's do it.
So you just asked me corporate card or ACH, and I'm the prospect. I hesitate and say, wait, how much was that annual maintenance fee again?
Okay. Acknowledge. How much is the maintenance fee? Great question. Respond. It is $1,200 annually, which covers the dedicated account manager and all your server costs. Close. Did you want to put that on the corporate card or the ACH?
Flawless. You answer the question surgically. You do not panic and launch into a 5-minute defensive monologue detailing the history of your server architecture.
Which so many people do.
They do. But you deliver the data and immediately snap back to the Slack close. But what if it isn't a logistical question? What if it's the ultimate objection? What if they say, it's just too much money, we can't afford it?
This is where the behavioral data on silence is absolutely terrifying for an amateur, but illuminating for a professional.
Yes.
The analytics show that when faced with a hard objection, average reps speed up their talking pace by 15 words per minute. Their anxiety spikes. They start word vomiting to fill the uncomfortable void, offering discounts and eroding their own value.
And top performers do the exact opposite. When struck with a hard objection, elite closers pause 5 times longer than an average rep.
5 times longer.
They embrace the vacuum. And when they finally do speak, their cadence only increases by maybe 3 words per minute. They maintain absolute physiological control.
That silence is a weapon. By holding your ground and refusing to speak, you force the prospect to sit with the immense value you just spent 45 minutes building. If you instantly rush to offer a 20% discount, you telegraph that your pricing was entirely fabricated to begin with.
Exactly.
You ARC the objection calmly, and you sit in the heavy, agonizing silence until they process it. The first one to speak loses.
It is a masterclass in emotional regulation. However, and this is a big word, however, securing the credit card is merely the end of the beginning.
Right.
The highest tier of business execution understands that acquiring a client is just the first phase. The ultimate goal is post-close loyalty, ensuring they never churn, and critically, that they recruit other clients for you.
The industry is so plagued by this hit-and-run sales culture. The rep gets a commission check, passes the client to a generic onboarding team, and disappears.
Never to be heard from again.
Exactly. To eliminate buyer's remorse, you have to bridge the emotional gap between the close and the actual utilization of the product. And the methodology here is fascinating. Injecting high-touch physical artifacts into a high-tech workflow.
I love this part.
Like using automated platforms like Handwritten, which literally program robotic arms holding actual fountain pens to craft physical, personalized thank you notes sent via snail mail.
Because receiving a tactile, physically penned letter from the individual who just solved your complex problem creates an incredibly durable psychological bond.
It proves you aren't just a row in a CRM.
Exactly. And that deep relational equity is the fuel for the ultimate enterprise growth engine, the Net Promoter Score, or NPS.
And NPS isn't just a vanity metric. If you look at how private equity firms value SaaS companies, a high NPS literally dictates the valuation multiple.
It's massive. So you survey your newly onboarded clients with a single question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend us to a colleague?
And you segment your operational response rigidly based on their numerical answer.
Rigidly. If they score you a 6 or below, they are detractors. They are actively harming your brand. You call them, you ask for forgiveness, and you surgically fix the operational failure.
Right. And if they score you a 7 or 8, they are passive. You call them to extract product feedback on how to improve.
But if they rank you a 9 or a 10, they are promoters. You call them, you express genuine gratitude, and then you explicitly ask for a referral.
Yeah.
You have to actually ask.
I love the ruthless quote here. Timid salespeople have skinny kids.
It's a classic.
You put in the exhaustive work to engineer a 10 out of 10 experience. You must possess the bravery to ask for the referral.
And when they hand you a name, the protocol is vital. You treat that referred individual exactly like a cold lead.
Wait, really? Even a warm referral?
Yes. Do not succumb to laziness.
Eh?
Don't assume that because they were referred, you can skip the methodology.
Yeah.
You personalize the opening. Hey, Sarah, David told me your team was struggling with the same logistics bottleneck we just solved for him. And then you run the exact same psychological script from the very beginning.
Because even a warm referral possesses the microwave mindset. They will still evaluate your design in 50 milliseconds. They still require you to dig deep and uncover their specific emotional why.
Exactly. So if we synthesize all these mechanics, what is the underlying philosophy of this entire code?
I think the soul of this entire deep dive is realizing that modern persuasion is a perfect, delicate marriage of high-tech infrastructure and high-touch psychology. You are deploying brilliant, visual-first design and behavior-based digital surveillance to attract the prospect and intercept them at the exact right millisecond.
Right.
But you do not rely on the software to close them. You rely on the deeply human elements. You rely on curiosity to dig deep. You rely on mastering the precise frequency of your tone when body language is stripped away. And you rely on the profound, uncomfortable confidence to hold space and silence when the tension is highest.
It's a beautiful summary.
This isn't just about moving a SaaS subscription or a consulting package. It's about the sheer mechanics of confidently guiding a fellow human being past their own hardwired hesitation.
It is a master blueprint for navigating the friction of human decision-making in an environment completely engineered to distract us.
Which brings us to the final, unavoidable reality. 100% of the marketing you never do has a 0% conversion rate. So, as you close this out and move into your week, ask yourself, are you hiding behind the technology? Are you obsessing over the perfect analytics dashboard, tweaking the hex codes on your landing page, trying to avoid the arena? Or are you willing to pick up the phone, risk the visceral sting of rejection, and worship at the altar of execution? The code is in front of you, now you just have to run it. What if I told you that nearly 90% of people absolutely refuse to answer their phones anymore?
I mean, I believe it. I do it myself.
Right. We are talking about a society that just screens every single call. We send unknown numbers straight to voicemail. And, we practically live in do not disturb mode.
Totally. The spam risk warning pops up and you just hit decline.
Exactly. And to compound that reality, only about 3% of people actually trust salespeople, which is incredibly low.
Oh, wow. 3%. That's brutal.
It is. So when you stare at those two numbers side by side, a 90% avoidance rate and a 3% trust rate, it feels like the era of selling anything to anyone is entirely dead.
Yeah, mathematically, it just doesn't seem to make sense.
Right. And yet somehow, billion-dollar companies are still closing massive So how is that mathematically possible?
It sounds like a total paradox, right? You have this incredible tension. On one side, there's the modern consumer,
Yeah.
and they are fiercely protective of their privacy. They have an incredibly low tolerance for being interrupted. And, they possess the technological tools to block out almost any unwanted communication instantly.
Right, they hold all the cards now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, you have the timeless, unavoidable reality of business economics. A company has to generate leads and, well, it has to convert those leads into paying clients or it dies, period.
Yeah. The bills still have to get paid.
Right. So what we're really looking at isn't the death of sales, it's the death of the amateur salesperson.
Oh, I like that distinction. The amateur is dead.
Exactly. The companies that are thriving right now, they haven't abandoned the phone or the sales conversation. They have just completely re-engineered how a stranger ends up on that phone call in the first place.
Right, the whole journey leading up to the hello.
Precisely. And exactly what happens the second they say hello.
Okay, let's unpack this completely, because today's deep dive is all about cracking what is essentially the modern code to conversion.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic.
It really is. We are exploring the exact intersection where marketing, sales, and technology overlap. And, I want to set the table right here for you listening. If you are trying to build a business, or if you are stepping up your entrepreneurial game, or, frankly, if you are simply fascinated by how modern commerce actually functions behind the scenes, this is the blueprint.
It really is the playbook for the modern era.
Right. The mission today is to figure out how to stop hopelessly chasing cold, annoyed leads and start magnetically attracting and actually closing high-quality clients.
And I think we have to start by looking at the sheer size of the gap between the companies that get this right and the ones that are still operating like it's, 1999.
Oh, definitely. The landscape has shifted so much.
It really has. I was looking at the data on this, and the divide is just staggering. When researchers ask companies if they feel they can properly qualify leads, 57% of what we would call elite companies say yes.
Okay, more than half.
Right. But only 27% of average companies say the same.
Wow. That's a massive drop-off.
It is. And when it comes to selling value and avoiding the trap of excessive discounting, basically panicking and dropping your price just to get a signature, 73% of elite companies hold their ground and succeed.
73%. So they aren't caving on price.
Exactly. But only 30% of average companies manage to do that. The elite players are just playing an entirely different game right now.
That is a massive divide. And to explain where that exponential growth actually comes from, there is this fascinating conceptual model we need to talk about. It's called the opportunity circle.
Yes, the opportunity circle. It's such a great visual.
Right. So picture 3 concentric rings, kind of like a bullseye. The tiny center ring, those are the people who already hire you, your existing clients.
Mm-hmm. The ones who already trust you.
Exactly. Then the middle ring represents the people who know you exist but haven't hired you yet. Maybe they, follow you on social media or they're on an old email list.
Right, the warm-ish audience.
Yeah. And then there is the massive, sprawling outer ring. Those are the people who have absolutely no idea you or your company even exist.
Precisely. And the natural instinct for most average businesses, especially when things get tough or the economy gets tight, is to obsess over that tiny center circle.
Right. They just squeeze their current clients.
Exactly. They try to squeeze more revenue out of the people who already bought, or they constantly harass the middle circle with, generic promotional emails until those people finally unsubscribe.
I feel like I'm on a lot of those email lists right now.
We all are. But the elite companies, they direct their primary energy and their technological infrastructure at that massive outer ring.
Because that's where the actual volume is.
Right. Real, sustainable, exponential scale only happens when you have a systematic, predictable mechanism to pull strangers from the outside all the way into the center.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that gravitational pull happens exactly at the intersection of marketing, sales, and tech alignment.
Here is how I visualize it. It is exactly like commercial fishing.
Ooh, I like that. How so?
Well, why do average companies insist on fighting each other, elbow to elbow, over this tiny overfished pond in the middle, while the elite companies are out there casting these massive, highly engineered nets into the open ocean of that outer ring?
Right. It just makes logical sense to go where the fish actually are.
Exactly. It's just a volume game at that point. But, I have to push back a little here.
Go for it.
Because when I hear phrases like sales and marketing alignment, my brain immediately translates that to fluffy corporate jargon.
Oh, totally. It sounds like something a consultant says in a boardroom to justify a massive retainer.
Yes, exactly. Is it actually quantifiable? Can we prove alignment does anything?
I completely understand the skepticism because synergy and alignment are two of the most abused words in modern business.
100%.
But in this context, it is entirely quantifiable. The research points to a very specific reality here. Companies that have a truly managed lead-to-revenue process experience 50% higher revenue growth than those that don't.
Wait, 50%? That's not just a small bump.
No, it's massive.
Yeah.
And let's define what a managed lead-to-revenue process actually means.
Yeah,
right?
let's ground it. What does it look like?
It means that the marketing technology catching the lead, the behavioral data that tech gathers, and the exact script the salesperson uses when they pick up the phone are perfectly synchronized.
So it's all one fluid motion.
Exactly. It is not marketing generating an email address and just, tossing it over a brick wall to a sales team who blindly calls it.
Which is how most companies operate, honestly.
Right. It is a seamless, data-driven relay race. That is not corporate fluff. That is a 50% revenue advantage.
So practically speaking, you have to stop obsessing over your tiny circle of existing clients if you want serious scale. You have to go to the outer ring.
Right. You have to fish in the ocean.
But to move people from the outside in, you first need a net to catch them. You can't just yell into the ocean and hope fish jump in the boat. Which logically takes us to the very first touch point, how you design your digital presence to actually attract people rather than annoy them away.
Right. And if we are talking about attraction marketing, we really have to start with the psychology of web design.
Okay, lay it on me.
We have all heard the cliche that content is king, right?
Oh, yeah. Every marketing blog says that.
But the behavioral data presents a very compelling argument. that design is the queen, and the queen dictates the rules of engagement
Oh, I like that framing.
because human beings take only 50 milliseconds to form an opinion about a website.
Wait, 50 milliseconds.
50
I
milliseconds.
want to pause on that because it's hard to even comprehend. That is literally faster than the blink of an eye.
It is incredibly fast.
You haven't read a single word of copy yet. You haven't seen the pricing. You are just absorbing the visual layout, and your brain is instantly deciding, is this credible?
Right.
What is actually happening in my brain in 50 milliseconds? How is it making a judgment that fast?
It is entirely evolutionary. It's the amygdala and our heuristic processing at work.
Okay, so it's deep-rooted survival stuff.
Exactly. The human brain is an incredibly efficient pattern recognition machine. It has to be, to survive. When you land on a web page, your brain isn't reading. It is scanning for visual harmony, symmetry, and cognitive ease.
Okay.
If a site is cluttered, if the color palette is jarring, if the fonts are chaotic, your brain instantly registers high cognitive load.
And high cognitive load is bad.
Very bad. To the primitive part of your brain, high cognitive load feels like a threat, or at the very least, a massive waste of precious energy.
Wow. So your brain is literally treating a bad website like a predator.
Pretty much. It triggers a flight response.
Yeah.
You click the back button before you even consciously realize why you didn't like the site.
That is wild.
On the flip side, clean lines, ample white space, and clear visual hierarchy signal safety and professionalism. Trust is an emotional reaction to visual order.
That makes so much sense. It is a biological threat assessment applied to digital marketing. And this really explains why the concept of the landing page has become so dominant over the last decade or so.
Oh, absolutely.
But, most people don't know the origin story of the landing page, and it's actually fascinating.
Oh yeah, the Microsoft story. It's a great piece of internet history.
Right. We take them for granted now, but back in 2003, the IT department at Microsoft essentially invented the modern landing page.
Yeah, they were trying to solve a huge problem.
They really were. They were facing massive issues with poor online sales for their flagship product, Microsoft Office.
Which is crazy to think about now since everyone uses Office.
Exactly. The issue was that Microsoft.com, like most of the web in the early 2000s, had become incredibly bloated. It was a portal.
Yeah, you have to remember the era. The internet was full of these massive, cluttered, Yahoo-style directories.
Right. Dozens of navigation options, sidebars, drop-down menus, company news, just distractions everywhere.
Right. So the Microsoft team did something completely counterintuitive for the time.
What did they do?
They extracted just the core content about Microsoft Office, completely stripped away the main navigation, removed all the other links, and put it on its own dedicated page with a single unavoidable focus.
Just buy Office, nothing else to click.
Exactly. And the result? Sales for Office skyrocketed by 30%,
A 30% jump just by removing the clutter.
just by making it easier on the brain.
It is the ultimate proof of that 50 millisecond rule. If you are running an ad on Facebook or Google and you spend money to send someone to your homepage where they have like 15 different buttons to click about us, our blog, careers, they get decision fatigue instantly.
Right. Their brain registers the cognitive load and they bounce.
A landing page removes the paradox of choice. It has one singular goal: capture the lead or make the sale.
The psychological principle there is called attention ratio.
Attention ratio. Okay, break that down.
So on a standard homepage, the attention ratio might be 40 to 1. There are 40 things you could click, but only one thing the company actually wants you to click.
Which is a terrible ratio.
Awful. Yeah. A perfect landing page has an attention ratio of 1 to 1.
Wow. One choice.
Exactly. But bringing a stranger to a landing page requires getting their attention in the first place. And the strategies for social media have evolved drastically beyond just posting content and hoping it goes viral.
Oh, definitely.
There is this tactic called Facebook phishing that completely redefines social prospecting.
Let's dive into that, because most businesses treat social media like a public broadcasting system.
They really do.
They just stand in the middle of the newsfeed with a megaphone, shouting about their new product and wondering why nobody engages.
Right, and the algorithms are explicitly designed to suppress that behavior.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
If you post a promotional link, Facebook or LinkedIn will artificially throttle its reach because they want to keep users on the platform, not send them away to your landing page.
Right, they lose ad revenue if people leave.
Exactly. So the real untapped value of social media isn't in the public feed. It is in the direct one-to-one messaging architecture. Yes, The phishing strategy leverages direct messenger to bypass the algorithm entirely and book appointments instantly.
The analogy that came to mind when I was looking at this is the difference between shouting in a crowded room versus passing a note.
Oh, I love that.
Right. Broadcasting on your feed is like standing in a noisy restaurant yelling, "I sell life insurance."
And everyone just tunes you out, or they actively avoid eye contact.
Exactly. But sending a direct message, that is like sliding a handwritten note across the table. It is personal. It demands a totally different level of psychological attention.
It does.
But here is my pushback.
Okay.
I get DMs from salespeople on LinkedIn or Facebook, and 99% of the time, I find it incredibly invasive. It feels spammy. How do you do this without being blocked immediately?
That is the crucial distinction.
Yep.
You're totally right. A cold, copy-pasted pitch in a DM is obnoxious.
It's the worst.
The strategy here relies on a highly specific disarming script. You do not pitch a product.
Okay, what do you do?
You ask for an opinion. The script is usually something simple like, "Hey, John, I've got a new project I'm working on, and I'd really value your opinion on it. Do you have a few minutes later, today or tomorrow for a quick call?"
Oh, that is clever. You weren't asking for their money, you were asking for their expertise.
Exactly. It leverages basic human ego. People love to feel valued.
They really do. We all love giving advice.
Right. They love to give their opinion. It completely disarms the sales defense mechanism. You aren't positioning yourself as a vendor trying to extract value from them. You are positioning yourself as a peer seeking their counsel.
That shifts the power dynamic completely.
It does. And once you get them on the phone, the conversation naturally bridges into how you can actually help them. But the DM itself is purely about securing the connection.
That's a great tactic.
And there's a parallel strategy used on LinkedIn called the R&R strategy: recommend and recruit.
We have to talk about LinkedIn because for a lot of people, LinkedIn feels like this endless sea of corporate humble brags.
Oh, it really can be.
It's a lot of, I am thrilled and humbled to announce.
Yes. The classic LinkedIn opener.
Right. So how does R&R cut through all that noise?
The R&R strategy is brilliant because it utilizes the platform during your downtime to build immense social capital. The first R stands for recommend.
Okay.
Instead of endlessly scrolling the feed, you proactively go to the profiles of past colleagues, former clients, or vendors you respect, and you write them a genuine, unprompted recommendation.
Without them asking.
Without them asking. You don't ask for anything in return. You just give them public praise.
And the psychology behind that is the law of reciprocity, right?
Yeah, exactly. Robert Cialdini's principle of reciprocity. When you do something unexpectedly kind and valuable for someone, they feel a deep-seated psychological compulsion to return the favor.
It's just human nature.
It is. So 3 months later, when you actually need an introduction to someone at their company, or when they encounter someone who needs your services who is top of mind.
The person who publicly validated them?
Exactly.
And the second R is recruit.
Right. Most companies only use LinkedIn to recruit when they have an immediate vacancy, which means they are hiring from a place of desperation.
Yeah, they need a body in a seat yesterday.
The recruit strategy means you are constantly using the advanced search filters to identify top talent in your industry. And you send them a message saying, "I love what you're doing at your current company. We don't have an opening right now, but I'd love to connect in case things change."
So you are building a bench.
You are creating a pipeline of talent so you are never held hostage by a sudden resignation.
That's incredibly smart. So if we synthesize this first phase, to move people from the outer ring to the inner ring, you have to bypass the noise.
Yes.
If you run ads, kill the bloated website and send them to a 1-to-1 attention ratio landing page.
Cut the cognitive load.
Exactly. On social media, stop yelling into the feed. Use direct messages to ask for opinions and use unprompted recommendations to trigger the law of reciprocity.
That's the formula.
But this logically brings us to the next massive hurdle.
Here we go.
Let's say your landing pages are beautiful. Your DMs are working. The leads are literally flowing in. A lead is totally useless if it just sits in a CRM dashboard rotting.
Well, it's worse than useless. It's wasted money.
Exactly. The gap between acquiring a lead and actually converting it is the graveyard for most businesses. We have to talk about the follow-up.
This is where we see the biggest failure point, hands down. And it stems from what is fundamentally an e-commerce myth.
The e-commerce myth, what is that?
Well, over the last decade, we have been sold this utopian vision of absolute automation.
Right. The 4-hour workweek dream.
Exactly. The idea that you can build a slick funnel, run some Facebook ads, go sit on a beach in Bali, and the internet will just, deposit money into your bank account while you sleep.
Which sounds amazing, to be fair.
It sounds great. And if you're selling $15 dropship t-shirts on Shopify, that might actually be true.
Oh.
But if you are a professional service provider, if you sell real estate, B2B software, consulting, financial services, that is a dangerous myth. You cannot fully automate a high-trust, high-ticket transaction. You have to actually talk to human beings.
I want to challenge that e-commerce myth, though, just for a second.
Sure.
Because we see AI improving so rapidly right now. People use chatbots for customer service all the time. Surely there is a large segment of the population that actually prefers dealing with a machine so they don't have to deal with a pushy salesperson.
It is a totally valid assumption. And honestly, a lot of tech companies have bet millions of dollars on it.
Right.
But the consumer data tells a completely different story. When consumers are asked how they want to interact when they actually need to make a complex purchasing decision or resolve a real issue, 74% still emphatically state they prefer communicating with a real person over an AI chatbot.
74%.
Only 3% said they prefer the chatbot.
Wow. So we are forcing bots on people who don't want them.
Exactly. What happens is that companies use automation as a crutch. Salespeople use chatbots to avoid the psychological friction and the hard work of actually picking up the phone and risking rejection.
I love that phrasing, using automation as a crutch to avoid hard work. It's a way to feel productive without actually being productive.
Perfectly said.
So if we accept the reality that we must pick up the phone, we have to look at the specific follow-up strategy outlined in the research.
Yep.
It is called bursting.
Yes, bursting.
And I have to admit, when I first read about this, it felt incredibly aggressive.
It is aggressive.
I compare bursting to a boxer's 1-2-3 combination.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Right. A professional boxer doesn't just throw one lazy jab, step back, drop their hands, and wait to see what happens. You throw a coordinated combination to break through the defense.
That is the perfect analogy.
Oh, yeah.
Because the amateur salesperson gets a lead notification, calls them once, leaves a generic voicemail, sends one email, and then just, crosses their fingers.
That is the single lazy jab.
Exactly. The bursting strategy recognizes that people are incredibly busy and distracted. When a lead comes in, you execute a highly concentrated sequence of outreach.
Okay, walk me through the combo.
First, you call them immediately, within minutes.
Speed is key.
Crucial. If they don't answer, you don't leave a voicemail, you execute a double dial. You literally hang up and call them right back to back.
Okay, stop right there.
Yeah.
Because double dialing feels borderline psychotic.
I know, people hate the idea of it.
If someone calls me twice in a row, my heart rate spikes because I assume someone is in the hospital. I assume it's a massive emergency. Does this not instantly infuriate the prospect?
It creates urgency, and that is exactly the point of it. You have to look at the mechanics of modern smartphones.
Okay.
Most people have their phones set to automatically silence unknown callers, or they have Do Not Disturb active, like we talked about earlier.
Right.
The only way to bypass an iPhone's Do Not Disturb setting is to call twice within 3 minutes. The double dial literally breaks through the software barrier.
Oh, I didn't even think about the software bypass.
Yeah, and psychologically you are right. It signals to the prospect, this is not a robocall. This is a real human being who desperately needs to reach me.
But they might be annoyed when they pick up.
They might be.
Yeah.
Now, you have to have the skill to de-escalate that urgency once they pick up, but the goal is to get the pickup in the first place.
That makes sense. You can't sell to a voicemail.
Exactly. And if the double dial still fails, bursting dictates that you immediately follow up with a double tap text message.
And what does that text message look like? Because if you double dial me, bypass my Do Not Disturb, and then text me a massive paragraph pitching your software, I am blocking your number forever.
Oh, absolutely. The text has to be incredibly casual, almost frustratingly brief.
Frustratingly brief.
Yeah, it shouldn't sound corporate at all. It should sound like it came from a friend. Something like, hey, John, just left you a quick voicemail regarding your inquiry. Give me a shout back when you have a sec.
Oh, okay. It's super low pressure.
Exactly. But the combination, the call, the immediate second call, and the casual text, it creates this burst of omnipresence.
And the most critical variable in all of this is speed, right? The research shows that your odds of contacting a web lead drop off a cliff after the first 5 minutes.
A literal cliff.
It makes total sense. If I fill out a form for a mortgage quote, in that specific minute I am thinking about mortgages, I am probably literally holding my phone in my hand.
Right.
10 minutes later, I'm making dinner, my kids are screaming, and I completely forgot I even filled out the form. You have to strike while their intent is at its peak.
Speed to lead is the ultimate competitive advantage.
Right.
But, it's not just about those first 5 minutes. The elite companies also utilize what is called behavior-based follow-up.
Okay, tell me about that.
This is where technology actually does serve a massive, totally appropriate role.
Right, because you can't just burst a lead every single day for a year. That's a restraining order waiting to happen.
No, that becomes harassment very quickly. Behavior-based follow-up means you let the prospect's digital body language tell you when to call them.
Digital body language.
Yeah, let's say you get a lead, you burst them, they don't answer, and they go cold for 6 months.
Happens all the time.
Right. An amateur salesperson either deletes them from the system or just blindly calls them every third Tuesday hoping to get lucky.
The old tickler file.
Exactly. An elite salesperson uses tracking pixels and CRM integrations. They get an alert on their dashboard that says, John Smith, a lead from 6 months ago, just returned to your website and spent 4 minutes looking at the pricing page.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you aren't calling them randomly. You are calling them at the exact moment their interest has suddenly re-sparked.
Exactly. And you don't call and say, hey, I saw you looking at my pricing page, because that is creepy.
Yeah, don't do that.
You call and say, hey, John, you actually just crossed my mind today. How have things been over the last 6 months?
To John, it feels like serendipity.
To the salesperson, it is just executing on behavioral data.
Serendipity engineered by data. I love that. So the takeaway here is speed and tenacity. Contact leads the second they come in, hit them with the boxer's combo of double dials and texts, do not hide behind AI chatbots, and let their own digital behavior trigger your long-term outreach.
That's the formula for the follow-up.
Okay, let's set the scene. You have done everything right. You executed the perfect burst. The phone rings, and against all odds, a complete stranger actually picks up and says, hello.
Which is the exact moment the real game begins.
Truly. And it is a terrifying moment for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because you have exactly 60 seconds to survive their immediate biological skepticism.
Yes.
The research breaks down the first minute of a sales call, and it is honestly a masterclass in behavioral psychology. And it starts with a foundational concept they call IASM.
Right, IASM. It stands for I am sold myself.
I am sold myself.
And to understand why IASM is the single most important variable in sales, we have to look at Albert Mehrabian's famous rule of communication, the 738-55 rule.
I've heard of this, but break it down for us.
So, in the 1960s, Dr. Mehrabian conducted studies on how human beings communicate feelings and attitudes. He found that 55% of the emotional impact of a message comes from visual body language.
Okay, more than half is visual.
Right. 38% comes from the vocal tone, the inflection, the pitch. And only 7% comes from the actual literal words spoken.
Wait, only 7% is the script. That is mind-blowing. Sales managers spend thousands of hours agonizing over the exact wording of a script, but the words are almost irrelevant compared to the delivery.
Exactly. But here is the massive problem with the phone call. That 55% that relies on body language. It is completely wiped out.
Because they can't see you.
Right. The prospect cannot see your posture, your eye contact, or your hand gestures. Suddenly, that 38% attributed to tone of voice expands to carry almost the entire weight of your emotional communication.
Tone becomes everything.
Your tone becomes the primary vehicle for your conviction.
So how does ISM actually translate to tone? Like, if I am having a terrible day, if I just lost a big deal, does the prospect instantly know?
Biologically, yes, they do.
Really?
They might not know why, but their brain registers the dissonance. When you are genuinely enthusiastically sold on the value of the product you are offering, when you have deep IASM, it actually changes your physiology.
It changes your body.
Yes. When you smile, it alters the shape of your vocal tract. It suddenly shifts the frequency and resonance of your voice.
Wow.
The human ear is evolved to detect those microfrequencies. Subconsciously, the prospect hears a voice that signals warmth, confidence, and authority.
And if you don't believe in what you're selling.
If you lack IASM, if you were just reading a script to hit a quota, your vocal cords tighten, your breathing is shallower, and the prospect's brain instantly registers lack of confidence. They will put their guard up before you even finish your first sentence.
So tone is biological conviction. I love that. Now, to back up that tone, The strategy suggests that before you even dial that number, you have to do what is called the pre-call stalk.
Yes.
And I am going to push back incredibly hard here.
I expect nothing less.
The term stalking a lead online, I mean, in this day and age, privacy is the most sensitive issue on the internet.
It is.
If a stranger calls me and starts rattling off where I went to college or mentions a tweet I liked yesterday, my first thought is not, wow, they did their homework. My first thought is, this is a corporate spy, this is incredibly creepy, and I am hanging up.
Totally fair.
How do you cross the line from being informed to being trusted without sounding like a stalker?
That is the most common and most valid pushback against this methodology. It is a razor-thin line, but it comes down to the intention and the framing.
Okay.
You aren't stalking them to find personal vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
You are building a professional dossier.
Adopt.
Right. Think of using tools like Hunter.io or LinkedIn. You do not bring up their weekend vacation photos from Instagram. You look for professional data points that prove you aren't operating a spray-and-pray boiler room.
Give me an example of the right way to use it versus the creepy way.
The creepy way is, hey, John, I saw on Facebook you were at the lake this weekend. How's the water? By the way, want to buy software?
Oh, that makes my skin crawl.
Right, because that violates the social contract of a cold call.
Yes, exactly.
But the right way is, hey, John, I was actually on your company's LinkedIn page this morning, and I saw you just expanded your logistics team into the Midwest. Congratulations on that growth. The reason I'm calling is we specifically help companies manage regional supply chains.
Okay, I see.
Do you see the difference? You are proving relevance. You are demonstrating that you spent 3 minutes researching their specific business realities before demanding their time.
It's respectful.
In the corporate world, doing your homework doesn't earn you a restraining order. It earns you respect.
Yeah.
It elevates you from a telemarketer to an informed consultant.
Okay, that makes total sense. It's a dossier of respect. It proves you aren't just dialing blindly down a phone book.
Exactly.
So you leverage your biological IASM tone, you drop a hyper-personalized professional detail to prove relevance. What happens next is a brilliant tactic because you have to take control of the call's environment immediately.
Right.
And the method is asking the lead to physically grab a pen and paper.
Yes. The gain control statement. It happens in the first 30 seconds. You say something along the lines of, John, can you do me a quick favor and grab a pen and paper? I want to give you my direct contact information just in case we get disconnected.
It seems so mundane. Why is that so powerful?
Because it is a micro-compliance test. When a prospect answers a cold call, they're usually multitasking. They're checking emails, driving, eating.
Right, they aren't fully there.
They're only giving you 10% of their cognitive attention. By asking them to find a pen and paper, you are forcing them to stop typing. You are forcing them to physically interact with their environment based on your instruction.
Oh, wow.
If they say, okay, hang on, let me grab a pen, it subtly but completely shifts the power dynamic. You have established yourself as the authority directing the flow of action.
It breaks their pattern of distraction. That is so
It's
smart.
highly effective.
But let's be real. Even if you have the perfect tone, the perfect dossier, and you get them to grab a pen, human nature is incredibly defensive.
Oh, yeah.
The prospect is going to throw up what the research calls a brick wall statement. They will interrupt you and say, look, I'm busy, I just want to know the price, or just tell me the interest rate.
They're throwing a brick wall right in your face.
They are essentially saying, give me the raw data so I can immediately commoditize you, hang up, and reject you.
Exactly. It is a defense mechanism to regain control of the call. And this is the exact moment where average salespeople completely fall apart.
What do?
When they hit that brick wall, they panic. They either get combative and argue, saying, well, I can't give you a price until I know your needs, which just creates massive friction.
Right.
Or, even worse, they instantly cave. They just give the price before they have built 1 ounce of value, and the second they give the price, the prospect says, okay, too expensive, thanks, bye.
The call is over.
Instantly.
Right. So how do the elite reps handle it? The framework is called ARP. ARP, acknowledge, respond, pivot.
That's the one.
Let's role play this dynamically so people can really hear how it flows. I am going to be the defensive prospect. I'm busy, you just called me, and I'm throwing the wall up. Ready?
Let's do it.
Look, I don't have a lot of time. I just want to know what the price of the software is.
You want to know the pricing? No problem at all. I will absolutely cover the pricing if I feel we can truly help your business. By the way, how long have you been scaling this new logistics team?
Whoa, stop right there.
How did that feel?
I genuinely felt what you just did. Let's break that down piece by piece. First, the A acknowledge. You said, You want to know the pricing? No problem at all.
Right. It acts as a verbal head nod. It
Hmm.
totally diffuses the tension. I am not fighting your request. I am validating it. I am letting your brain know that you were heard.
But then they are respond. You said, I will absolutely cover the pricing if I feel we can truly help your business. That was subtle, but you just took all the power away from me. So I
Exactly.
thought I was interviewing you, but you just flipped the frame. You positioned yourself as the prize. You were deciding if you can help me.
That is the magic of the response phase. It answers the question vaguely enough to satisfy the immediate demand, but it maintains complete status control. I am not a desperate vendor begging for your money. I am an expert assessing if you qualify for my help.
And then the crucial pivot. Without even taking a breath, you asked, how long have you been scaling this new logistics team? You threw the ball right back into my court.
And whoever is asking the questions is controlling the direction of the conversation. The human brain is socially conditioned to answer direct questions. Instead of dwelling on the price, your brain immediately pivots to calculate how long your team has been scaling.
It's like verbal sleight of hand.
The brick wall is entirely dismantled smoothly and professionally, and we are back into a diagnostic conversation.
Acknowledge, respond, pivot. It is verbal judo. Validate the concern, hold your frame, and redirect with a question.
That's it.
The takeaway for anyone listening is clear. Do not wing your first 60 seconds. Script it meticulously. Expect the prospect to throw up a brick wall. They are human. It is going to happen. Do not panic. Use the ARP method to absorb their momentum and take control by asking the next question.
Couldn't have said it better.
So, surviving that initial brick wall buys you the right to actually stay on the phone. You've earned another 5 minutes, but just staying on the phone doesn't put money in the bank.
No, it doesn't.
To actually cross the finish line and make a sale, you have to transition completely. You have to stop being a fast-talking, objection-handling salesperson, and you have to transform into an elite, almost clinical listener.
This is where the real skill comes in.
And this brings us to the phase of the call called digging deep and securing the 5 yeses.
This is where we see a fascinating divergence in the data regarding call duration. Successful sales calls, meaning calls that actually result in a booked appointment, a demo, or a closed deal, are on average 45% longer than unsuccessful calls.
Well, that makes intuitive sense. If they are talking to you longer, they are more interested.
Yes, but it is what happens during that extended time that really matters. During those highly successful longer calls, the top-performing salespeople actually spend 54% of the time completely silent.
More than half the time, they aren't speaking.
They are listening. They are not pitching their product for an hour. They are essentially interviewing the prospect.
Dig deep or go to sleep. That is the mantra. You have to keep them talking. And the analogy used in the research to explain this difference between a bad listener and a deep digger is absolutely perfect. It is the deck analogy.
Oh, this is a great one.
Let's say you are a loan officer selling home equity lines of credit. A prospect calls in and says, I want to borrow $50,000 for a new deck.
Okay.
An average salesperson, what we call an order taker, hears that and instantly jumps to logistics. They say, great, a deck. Who is your current mortgage with? What is your credit score? Let me check our interest rates. They are just processing a transaction.
Right, checking boxes.
But an elite salesperson, they hear deck and they act like an investigative journalist.
Exactly.
They get intensely, obsessively curious. They say, you are building a $50,000 deck. Wow. Is this thing going to have a glass elevator and a built-in outdoor kitchen? Why on earth are you spending 50 grand on a deck?
The difference in those two approaches is the difference between a minimum wage job and a 7-figure income. By acting like an investigative journalist, you uncover the ultimate why. You force the prospect to articulate the emotion behind the math.
Right.
The prospect might laugh and respond, no elevator. But honestly, my husband just got a massive promotion. We love hosting our friends in the summer, and we can finally afford to build our dream backyard to celebrate.
And boom, everything changes.
Everything changes because now you are no longer selling a $50,000 financial product with a 7% interest rate.
We were selling a dream.
You are completely immune to interest rate shopping now. You are selling the emotional validation of their hard work. You are selling the joy of hosting their friends. You have bypassed the logical brain and tapped directly into the emotional core of the purchase.
But before you can leverage that emotional core, there is the logistical landmine that ruins so many deals, and the data on this is wild. It's about securing the spouse or the secondary decision maker.
This is a critical failure point. If you sell a product or a service that typically requires joint decision-making in B2C. It's usually a spouse. In B2B, it's a co-founder or a CFO. Ensuring all decision-makers are present for the pitch is absolutely vital.
What do the numbers say on that?
The data shows a massive 258% higher close rate when multiple decision-makers are actively present on the call.
258%. Why is the drop-off so severe if they aren't there?
Because of the emotional momentum we just talked about.
Okay, right.
If you spend an hour digging deep with one partner, uncovering their specific emotional triggers about hosting friends on the deck, they get incredibly excited.
Okay, so let's assume you have done that. Both decision makers are on the phone. You have spent 20 minutes digging deep. You have acted like an investigative journalist, and you have written down all their logical needs and all their emotional whys.
Yes.
Now, you deploy what is called the 5 yeses technique. And I have to say, when I read how this works, it borders on psychological wizardry.
It really does.
It feels like a Jedi mind trick, because you still don't pitch your product. Instead, you read their own answers back to them to secure agreement.
It is an incredibly powerful framing mechanism rooted in cognitive psychology, specifically what Robert Cialdini calls consistency bias.
Consistency bias.
Human beings have a deep psychological need to appear consistent with their past statements. If we say something is true, our brain will aggressively defend that truth. So as a salesperson, you literally look at the notes you took while digging deep, and you ask them to verbally confirm what they already told you.
Walk me through what that actually sounds like in practice.
You transition by saying, before I explain how we can help, I just want to make sure I fully understand your goals.
Setting the stage.
Right. Then you start the yeses.
Yeah.
First, you say, earlier you said you are tired of your current backyard layout. Is that true? They say yes.
Okay, that's one.
And you mentioned you want this new deck specifically because you love hosting your friends and family. Yes.
Ew.
And you said you need this project completed before the big 4th of July party, right? Yes.
That's right.
And you are looking to keep the monthly payments under $600. Yes.
Or
And then the closer. So if I can show you a way to get the deck built before July for under $600 a month so you can finally host your friends the way you want to, you'd be ready to move forward. And they say yes.
wow. It is absolutely brilliant. You are essentially building a cage of perfect logic, entirely out of their own words.
That's a great way to picture it.
By the time they have said yes 5 times to their own desires and their own constraints, their excitement is peaking. It is nearly impossible for them to disagree with your proposal, because doing so would require them to disagree with their own stated goals. The cognitive dissonance would be too painful.
Exactly. You aren't forcing them into anything. You are perfectly aligning your solution with their explicitly stated truth.
Which is why you can never be an order taker.
Right. Dig deep, ask the probing questions, write down the emotional answers, and use the 5 yeses to lock in their motivations before you ever breathe a word about your specific features.
Which brings us finally to the grand finale. You've bursted the lead, survived the brick wall, dug deep, and gotten the 5 yeses.
The hard part is mostly done.
It is officially time to pitch the product and ask for the money. And this relies on another powerful structural acronym, FBTs, and then using ARC to handle the close.
Yes. But the absolute greatest danger at this specific stage of the conversation is a phenomenon known as feature dumping.
Feature dumping. Let's unpack that.
Salespeople have been holding back their pitch for 30 minutes, right? When they finally get permission to talk about their product, they feel this overwhelming relief, and they just unleash a relentless monologue.
Just a wall of words.
Exactly. They list every single bell, whistle, integration, and technical spec their product has, hoping something sounds impressive.
And they do it because they are proud of the product. They want to justify the price tag.
True, but the data is brutal on this. The longer a salesperson feature dumps without checking in, the faster the win rate plummets.
Because it's overwhelming.
The prospect's eyes just glaze over. They get overwhelmed by information they don't understand and honestly don't care about. Instead of a monologue, the perfect pitch relies on the FBT structure: feature, benefit, tie down.
I love the FBT concept because it is so universally applicable. You can bring it right down to earth. I actually use a parenting analogy to explain this to myself.
Let's hear it.
If I want my teenager to clean their room, I don't just stand there and list the features of a clean room. I don't say, it will have less dust, the floor will be visible, the laundry will be folded. They do not care.
No teenager cares about dust.
Right. I have to use an FBT. Clean your room, That is the feature, the action. So you can get your phone back. That is the benefit, the thing they actually care about.
Perfect.
And then you want your phone back before Friday night, right? Right.
That is the tie down. It's a micro close. It forces them to agree that the feature is worth the benefit.
That is a flawless analogy. You must never present a feature of your product without immediately attaching it to a specific benefit that solves a problem they mentioned during the digging deep phase.
It has to connect back to their why.
Exactly. And you must always lock that statement in with a tie-down question that requires a yes. Things like, makes sense, or do you see how that saves you time?
So you are just collecting more yeses. Yes. When you string 4 or 5 of these FPTs together, you are micro-closing them step by step. You are literally marching them right over the buying line, one logical agreement at a time.
But of course, this is the real world.
It is.
Even if you execute the perfect FBT pitch, even if they have said yes 20 times, when it actually comes time to hand over a credit card, you are going to face final objections. It is the fourth quarter. The pressure is on. How do elite closers handle the final no?
They handle it with an almost unnatural level of calm. And they use the ARC method. We talked about ARP earlier for the opening, but ARC stands for acknowledge, respond, close.
Okay, let's play this out.
It is designed for the end of the line. Let's say you ask for the business, and the prospect suddenly says, you know what, this sounds great, but I really need to sleep on it. I need to talk to my wife.
A classic stall.
Right. Average reps argue. They say, but we just agreed this fits your budget.
Which creates immediate conflict.
Elite reps use ARC. They acknowledge. I completely appreciate that, John. Honestly, I always talk to my wife before making big financial decisions, too.
Validating them again.
Right, they respond. But based on everything we talked about, do you fundamentally believe she would be on board with getting this deck built before your big July party?
Reminding them of the dream.
Yes. And then they immediately close again. Great, let's do this. Let's get the preliminary paperwork drafted for her to review. Tonight, I just need a card on file to hold the promotional rate while you guys talk.
Acknowledge, respond, close. It validates their hesitation, but gently pushes the momentum forward. But I was reading the behavioral data on this, and it is not just the words you say. The physical behavior of the salesperson in that exact moment of objection is fascinating.
This is perhaps the most revealing data point in the entire process.
Really?
Yes. When faced with a final objection, when the prospect says, it's too expensive, or I need to think about it, average salespeople panic biologically, their heart rate spikes.
Fight or flight kicks in.
Exactly. And as a result, they speed up their talking pace by an average of 15 words per minute. They rush to fill the uncomfortable silence because silence feels like rejection.
They start talking fast, lowering the price, throwing in freebies.
Exactly. They literally negotiate against themselves. But elite closers do the exact opposite.
What do they do?
They stay absolutely calm. They do not increase their words per minute at all. And critically, when the prospect raises an objection, elite closers pause 5 times longer than an average rep before answering. 5 times longer.
That is agonizing. Just sitting in silence on a phone call for 3 or 4 seconds?
It requires immense discipline. But that silence is a weapon.
Oh, so?
It allows the prospect to feel the full weight of their own objection. Often, if you just stay silent, the prospect will start talking again and actually talk themselves out of their own objection.
Really? They'll negotiate with themselves?
Yes. They'll say, it's too expensive, but I guess we do spend that much on vacations anyway. You let the silence do the heavy lifting before you calmly dismantle the remaining concern with an ARC.
The absolute power of silence. I love that. But we have to address the worst case scenario here. What happens if, after all of this, after the bursting, the ARP, the deep digging, the FBTs, the ARCing, the agonizing pauses, they still just flat out say, no, we are not doing this?
It happens.
Does the elite rep just hang up and move on?
No, because selling is fundamentally about relationship preservation. If they give you a definitive no, you do not burn the bridge, you do not get passive-aggressive, you seamlessly transition to what is called a preferred additional outcome.
A preferred additional outcome. What does that mean practically?
It means you have a backup plan to extract long-term value from the interaction. You ask for permission to stay in touch. You say, John, I completely respect that the timing isn't right. Would it be okay if I sent you our quarterly report on home value trends just to keep you in the loop?
So you get one last yes.
You get the micro yes, and you put them into an automated, highly valuable nurture email sequence because circumstances change. A no today is very often just a not right now.
That's a great mindset.
6 months from now, when they are ready, you want to be the only person they think of because you handled their rejection with total professionalism.
And let's flip it to the best case scenario. If they do say yes, which, if you follow this entire code step by step, they frequently will, the work still isn't over. Post-sale retention is a huge piece of this puzzle.
Oh, massive.
There's this incredible anecdote in the research about Lewis Howes, the entrepreneur and podcaster, that perfectly illustrates this.
Yes, the brownie bites.
The brownie bites. He was selling these high-ticket, $1,000 digital courses, and like anyone selling high-ticket items, he was dealing with buyer's remorse.
It's natural when spending that much.
Right. People would get swept up in the emotion of the sale, buy the course, and then the next morning they would panic and ask for a refund. To combat this, Lewis started mailing his brand new clients a physical $10 bag of gourmet brownie bites the literal second they signed up.
Such a smart move.
It arrived in the mail a day or two later with a handwritten note welcoming them to the program.
And the result was incredible. The refund requests plummeted almost to zero.
Exactly, because it is about surprising and delighting them in that vulnerable window right after they hand over their money. Sending a handwritten note, sending a $10 box of brownies, it intercepts their buyer's remorse and replaces it with gratitude.
It solidifies the relationship.
It physically solidifies the digital trust you just spent an hour building on the phone.
The takeaway for the closing phase is so clear. Never feature dump. Always use FBTs to micro-close with logic and benefits. When faced with final objections, suppress your panic, embrace the uncomfortable silence, use ARC to smoothly address the concern, and if they still say no, gracefully transition into a long-term nurture campaign.
Okay, we have covered an immense amount of ground in this hour.
I really have.
We started by diagnosing the massive trust deficit in modern consumers. We built the opportunity circle. We talked about 50-millisecond landing pages, sliding notes under doors with social DMs, bypassing do not disturb with double dials, the biological impact of vocal tone, dismantling brick walls with ARP, acting like a journalist to secure the 5 yeses, and finally, using silence and brownies to close the deal.
That is the whole playbook.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? If we synthesize everything we have discussed, the ultimate conversion code isn't just about having the flashiest CRM software, the cleanest landing pages, or the most manipulative sales scripts.
It is so much deeper than tactics. It is an entire interconnected ecosystem. The digital efficiency, the targeted ads, the one-to-one attention ratio landing pages, the behavioral triggers telling you when to call, all of that brilliant technology is simply the vehicle that brings a stranger to your front door.
Right.
But it is the structured human empathy, the tone of voice, the intense curiosity about their real problems, the deep listening, the ability to uncover their true emotional motivations. That is what actually invites them inside, builds the trust, and turns them into a lifelong client.
Digital efficiency brings them to the door. Human empathy invites them inside. That is perfectly stated. Technology scales the reach, but humanity scales the trust.
Spot on.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a specific forward-looking thought to mull over. Think about your own opportunity circle right now. Picture that massive, sprawling outer ring of people who desperately need what you do, but who currently have no idea you exist. What is the exact 50-millisecond visual change you can make to your digital presence today to stop annoying them and start inviting them in? Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. We'll catch you on the next one.
So nearly 90% of people won't answer your phone calls anymore.
Yep. It's a staggering number.
And it gets worse, honestly. Like 96% of iPhone users are explicitly opting out of app tracking now. Plus, only 3% of people actually trust marketers and salespeople.
Which is just a brutal reality check.
Right. Let those numbers just sink in for a second.
Yeah.
Because we are looking at a landscape where the consumer has unequivocally won the privacy war. I mean, they've drawn a massive line in the digital sand, and they explicitly, aggressively want to be left alone.
They absolutely do.
So here is the core tension we're unpacking in today's deep dive. In a world that is auto-blocking your calls, ignoring your emails, and hiding their personal data, how do you actually grow a business? Like, how do you survive, let alone thrive, when the old playbook of just shouting at strangers until they buy is completely dead? You have to adapt or you are going to die in this new landscape.
It is a really stark reality, but it's a necessary one to confront because if you are listening to this right now, you are about to learn the complete conversion code.
Which is exactly what we need.
Right. This is essentially a masterclass in how to stop that desperate, exhausting chase for leads and start magnetically attracting clients to you. So, we are going to explore the intersection of marketing, sales, and technology. Because honestly, that's the only proven way left to turn highly skeptical strangers into raving, paying customers.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Mhm.
Because I feel like starting with those bleak statistics could make anyone want to just, I don't know, pack up, lock the doors, and close shop forever.
It sounds a bit apocalyptic at first.
Totally, but there is a massively optimistic mission hidden inside those numbers. The urgency is valid, obviously. The rules of engagement have completely shifted. Like, we're dealing with Apple's iOS 15 updates, which fundamentally altered email tracking by just, well, hiding open rates.
Yeah, that was a huge blow to traditional marketers.
Huge. And we're dealing with GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, which, it started in Europe but effectively set a global standard forcing websites to ask for explicit cookie consent. But while the technological rules have changed, the fundamental human psychology of why people buy remains entirely the same.
Exactly. That is the silver lining that changes everything here. We really have to look closely at this privacy revolution. I mean, consumers demanded privacy, and the tech giants delivered.
They really did.
When Apple introduced that prompt in iOS 15, asking users if they want an app to track their activity across other companies' apps and websites, 96% of them hit Ask App Not to Track. They are opting out en masse.
And it's not just Apple, right? Look at the broader web. Because of GDPR and similar privacy laws, we get those cookie consent pop-ups on every single website now.
Right.
I know I personally just blindly click reject all while I'm just trying to read a simple recipe online.
You and everyone else. Only 11% of visitors actually click to accept those cookies. The rest are ignoring it, closing the prompt, or actively rejecting it.
Wow, only 11%.
Yeah. And then if you move over to the telecom industry, robocalls reached a staggering $4 billion a month in the U.S. alone.
4 billion. That's insane.
It became such a profound nuisance that the FCC stepped in. And now cell carriers are aggressively auto-blocking suspected spam. So people across every generation are now 3 to 8 times more likely to prefer a text message over a phone call.
And we also have to factor in the regulatory side, like the Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, lawsuit against Meta.
Right, the targeting restrictions.
Yeah, that lawsuit completely gutted the ability to target ads by neighborhood or ZIP code for specific industries like real estate, credit, and employment. The days of hyper-targeting a 5-mile radius with creepy precision are just over. So we really have this perfect storm. No tracking, no open rates, no cookies, auto-blocked calls, and heavily restricted ad targeting.
Which brings us to a really helpful conceptual framework for visualizing this new reality. It's called the opportunity circle.
Okay, I love a good visual.
So picture 3 concentric circles, kind of like a bullseye.
I'm picturing it.
The absolute center, the smallest circle, represents the people who actually hire you or buy from you right now. That's your current clientele.
Got it.
Then the middle circle, which is slightly larger, represents the people who know you exist. Maybe they follow your social media or subscribe to your email list, but they just haven't hired you yet.
Okay.
And then you have the massive, giant outer circle that comprises all the people in the world who do not know you exist.
Right. And because of this privacy revolution we just detailed, that giant outer circle feels like it's surrounded by a fortress wall with an alligator moat.
It really does.
So I have to challenge this premise bit. Is this privacy revolution actually a death sentence for small businesses who used to rely on hyper-targeted Facebook ads to find their customers? Or is it just, I don't know, forcing us to be better marketers? Because looking at the data, the barrier to entry feels impossibly high now.
I get why it feels high, but it is actually the greatest equalizer we have seen in decades.
Really? An equalizer?
Absolutely, because it forces a necessary evolution from annoying, intrusive outbound marketing to magnetic, value-driven inbound marketing. Let's look at the baseline here. Only 12% of marketers are currently satisfied with their lead conversion rate.
That is abysmal.
It is. And the reason the number is so low is that the vast majority are still relying on outdated, intrusive tactics that these new privacy laws were specifically designed to destroy.
So they are effectively trying to break through a brick wall with their forehead instead of taking a step back and looking for the door.
That is exactly what is happening. This landscape levels the playing field. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the gap between elite companies and average companies isn't about who can buy the most invasive data lists anymore.
Right.
It is entirely about their ability to properly qualify leads and effectively sell value. Elite companies don't need creepy tracking pixels because they have superior strategies for building trust.
Okay, so if the mission is to move people from that massive, anonymous, don't know you outer circle across the moat and into the know you and eventually hire you circles, we have to build a bridge.
We do.
And if we can't just buy a list of their data and bombard them with ads against their will, they have to actively choose to come to us, which means our digital storefront has to be incredibly compelling. So we're talking about the website and the landing page.
Yes. Your website is the digital threshold. And the guiding principle here is quite provocative. Content might be king, but design is queen.
Design is queen. Let's dig into that because people often assume if their product is great, the aesthetics don't really matter.
Oh, but aesthetics dictate trust. Great design is what builds the initial psychological safety required for someone to even consider doing business with you.
Interesting.
Studies in human-computer interaction show that we evaluate the credibility of a website in about 50 milliseconds.
Wait, 50 milliseconds?
Yeah.
That's basically instant.
It's faster than a blink. And that judgment is entirely based on visual aesthetics, not the brilliant marketing copy you spent 3 weeks refining.
It's like walking into a restaurant. Like if the floors are sticky, the menus are torn, and the fluorescent lighting is buzzing aggressively, it really doesn't matter if the chef has 3 Michelin stars. Your brain just tells you it isn't safe, and you turn around and walk out before you even taste the food.
That is a fantastic analogy to illustrate just how subtle and powerful design cues are at directing human behavior. There is a fascinating eye-tracking study done on a website called baby.com.
Oh, the heat map study. This is mind-blowing. Walk us through the mechanics of this, because I love this one.
Sure. So the researchers ran a heat map test, which tracks exactly where a user's pupils focus on a screen and for how long. The first version of this landing page featured a picture of a very cute baby looking directly forward right at the camera, essentially making eye contact with the user.
Yeah, okay.
And next to the baby was a headline and some text about diapers.
And from an evolutionary biology standpoint, humans are hardwired to look at faces. We have an entire region of the brain, the fusiform face area, dedicated just to this. So what did the heat map show?
The heat map showed a massive, glowing red hot spot right on the baby's face. The user's eyes were completely locked on the infant.
Of course they were.
The headline and the value proposition off to the side, almost completely ignored, just a few faint green spots. The users were essentially engaging in a staring contest with a JPEG of an infant.
Which does absolutely nothing for conversion. Like, you don't want them staring at the baby, you want them reading the headline and clicking the button to buy.
Exactly. So for the A/B test, the designers made one incredibly subtle change. They used a photo of the exact same baby, but in this photo, the baby's head was turned in profile, looking directly at the headline text.
Oh, let me guess. Because we are highly social primates, we have a biological imperative to follow the gaze of others. If someone in the tribe looks up at a tree, everyone else looks up to see if there's a leopard.
You hit the nail on the head. We naturally follow the gaze of another human face. And the results of the second test were staggering.
I bet.
The heat map shifted entirely. There was still a small spot on the baby's face, but a massive, bright red hotspot appeared right over the headline and the text.
That is wild.
Right. By simply turning the baby's gaze, the design hacked the user's evolutionary biology and directed their attention exactly where the business needed it to go.
That is the invisible persuasion of design. And it ties perfectly into the next major rule for landing pages, which is the one-page, one-purpose rule, which makes profound sense when you view it through the lens of decision fatigue and the Hick-Hyman law.
Yes, exactly.
This basically states that the time it takes for a person to make a decision increases with the number of choices available. Like if I land on a page and it asks me to subscribe to a newsletter and follow the company on X and read a blog post and download a PDF and buy a product, my cognitive load just maxes out and I close the tab.
You experience choice paralysis. Adding more choices mathematically equals fewer decisions made. A landing page must have a singular, aggressive focus. This means you must strip away the top navigation links.
Wait, really? Strip away the navigation? But isn't that how people navigate this site to learn about the company?
On a general homepage, yes. But on a dedicated landing page meant for conversion, absolutely not. You do not want them wandering off to your About Us page or reading your corporate history when they're supposed to be filling out a lead capture form.
Oh, that makes sense. You have to remove the exits.
Exactly. Remove the exits. Furthermore, you must ruthlessly minimize the form fields. Every single required field you add, asking for their last name, their company size, their physical address, it all acts as cognitive friction. Adding required fields demonstrably kills your conversion rate.
It's the difference between walking into a small, curated boutique where the clerk hands you exactly what you came for and points you to the register versus wandering a maze of a massive warehouse store trying to find one specific item while sirens are going off.
Very true.
You want a highly focused funnel, not a leaky bucket.
And we have to design these funnels for the modern attention span, which we refer to as the microwave mindset.
Microwave mindset. I love that phrasing. Like, we want our food hot in 30 seconds, and we want our information even faster.
Precisely. Attention spans are fracturing, heavily conditioned by short-form video platforms like TikTok and Instagram Reels. The data indicates that 58% of viewers will actually finish a business-related video if it is under 60 seconds.
Okay.
But the moment you cross that 1-minute threshold, completion rates plummet aggressively.
So if you have a massive wall of text or a 10-minute corporate explainer video right at the top of your landing page, you aren't educating your customer. You're actively driving them away.
You are. The human brain processes visual information 60,000 times faster than text. This is why continuously testing your design is paramount. Using tools like Google Optimize to run A/B tests allows you to remove the guesswork. You test a red call to action button against a green one. You test a micro video against a static image. You let the telemetry tell you what the human brain prefers.
Okay, so we've engineered this beautifully designed, highly focused, leak-proof landing page. The baby is looking at the headline. There's no navigation menu to distract them. The video is a punchy 45 seconds, and the CTA button is scientifically optimized.
Sounds perfect.
But a beautiful, highly optimized store sitting in the middle of the desert is still going to go out of business. We need traffic. We have to create content that actually compels people to visit this digital storefront.
This requires a strategic shift in how we view content creation. Despite the microwave mindset we just discussed, long-form content, specifically blogging for business, remains incredibly potent.
Wait, blogging? Still?
Yes, still. Companies that maintain an active, high-quality blog get 55% more website visitors than those that don't.
A 55% bump in traffic is a massive competitive advantage. But we aren't talking about a 300-word update about the company picnic, right?
Far from it. The data reveals a very specific sweet spot for dominating search engine rankings. The average word count for a top 10 Google search result is around 2,500 words. That equates to roughly a 7-minute read.
Wait, hold on. A 7-minute read, but we just established that people won't watch a video past 60 seconds. How do we reconcile those two completely conflicting data points?
It sounds like a paradox, I know, but it all comes down to user intent.
Intent, okay.
When someone is scrolling social media on their phone in line at the grocery store, they are in the microwave mindset. They want quick hits of dopamine. But when someone sits down at their computer and types a specific, complex query into Google, they're seeking depth, authority, and a thorough answer.
Oh, so they shift modes entirely.
Exactly. They shift into a research mindset. Google's algorithm rewards comprehensive, well-researched, authoritative content because that is what the user is demanding in that specific moment.
That makes total sense. Context is everything. But writing a 2,500-word masterpiece takes a massive amount of time and energy. I mean, most business owners are trying to run their company. They don't have time to write what is essentially a college term paper every single week.
Which is why the most efficient strategy is called the content waterfall.
Right.
You do not need to create 100 different pieces of content from scratch. You create one incredibly deep, high-quality, long-form piece, like that 2,500-word blog post or a 1-hour video.
Right. That acts as the top of the waterfall.
From there, you slice it up, you let the content cascade down. You take 3 interesting statistics from that long article and turn them into 3 separate text posts.
Nice.
You take the most controversial or surprising paragraph and turn it into a 60-second vertical video. You take the actionable takeaways and design a visual carousel. One deep dive piece becomes a dozen pieces of micro content, perfectly tailored for that microwave mindset on social platforms.
Working smarter, not harder. Now, speaking of working smarter, a lot of people might hear write 2,500 words and immediately think, well, I'll just fire up AI and have it churn out 5 articles by lunch. But there is a really funny yet vital cautionary tale about outsourcing your voice to AI.
Oh, there is a great story about this. An author experimented with an AI language model to see if it could write a promotional blurb for a new book.
Oh,
The AI produced incredibly compelling, highly persuasive copywriting. The tone was professional, the pacing was great, but there was one glaring issue at the very end of the text.
what was it?
The AI proudly proclaimed that the book was written by the award-winning author Nick Hanks.
Mick Hanks, a completely fabricated human being.
Exactly. The author's name was Chris. The AI completely hallucinated a fake, famous-sounding name because it doesn't actually understand truth. It just predicts the next most likely word based on its training data.
It's like having a highly articulate, brilliantly confident intern who occasionally just lies to your face without a shred of hesitation.
That's a perfect way to put it. The takeaway is that AI is an incredible assistant, not a replacement. It can help you outline, brainstorm, and generate first drafts rapidly. But human nuance, rigorous fact-checking, and inserting your unique perspective still absolutely matter. You cannot put content creation on blind autopilot.
Okay, so our content waterfall is flowing. We have these micro pieces of content ready to go out onto social media. Let's talk about the actual distribution strategy, specifically on platforms like Facebook and LinkedIn. Because there is a very sharp, brilliant distinction drawn between two concepts, the magic million and the chunky middle.
This strategy is one of the most counterintuitive but powerful elements in the entire conversion framework. It completely flips traditional advertising on its head. It is the tactical difference between demand generation and demand fulfillment.
Let's define those, because that's a crucial distinction for everyone listening.
Right. So, the magic million is your top-of-funnel strategy. This is pure demand generation. The solitary goal here is to reach a massive audience and get them to engage with a piece of content, to like it, watch a few seconds of video, or leave a comment.
Okay.
And here's the counterintuitive kicker. You run these ads without any link to your website.
Wait, here's where it gets really interesting. Why on earth would I pay for an ad actively giving money to a social media platform that doesn't even have a link to my landing page? Isn't the whole point of digital marketing to drive traffic to my site so I can capture a lead?
Yeah.
Running an ad with no link sounds like setting money on fire.
It sounds that way until you understand how social media algorithms actually function. Think about what a platform like Facebook or LinkedIn fundamentally wants. What is their core business model?
Well, their business model is selling ads, so they need to keep people on their platform for as long as possible to show them as many ads as possible.
Exactly. So the moment you put a link in your post that drives someone away from their platform and onto your website, the algorithm penalizes that post.
Oh.
It restricts the organic reach, and it makes it much more expensive to promote because you are actively taking their user away. But if you run an ad with a highly engaging video or a thought-provoking text post with no link, the algorithm loves it.
Because you're keeping them there.
Right. It rewards you with massive reach for pennies on the dollar because your content is keeping users engaged on the platform.
Okay, I understand playing nice with the algorithm, but I still haven't made any money. I just bought a bunch of cheap likes and video views.
But you haven't just bought vanity metrics. You have built an invisible audience. Anyone who engages with that top-of-funnel ad, someone who watches 10 seconds of the video or hits the like button, is automatically tracked by the platform and placed into a custom audience.
Oh, I see.
You are building a massive pool of people who have raised their hand and shown a micro interest in your topic. This highly engaged pool is what we call the chunky middle.
Oh, I see the matrix now. That's brilliant.
Now you transition to demand fulfillment. Now you run your conversion ads, the ones that actually contain the links to your landing pages, offering your lead magnets or your services. But instead of showing those expensive conversion ads to millions of cold strangers who will probably ignore them, you only show them to the chunky middle.
Wow.
You are exclusively retargeting people who are already warmed up to your brand.
It's a psychological 1-2 punch. You jab with the cheap, engaging, linkless content to see who is actually paying attention. And then you follow up with the right hook, the offer, only to the people who are looking at you.
Exactly.
That is brilliant because it completely bypasses the privacy restrictions we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
You don't need a third-party tracking cookie if they are engaging with your content natively on the social platform itself.
It leverages the platform's own first-party data perfectly. And there is another layer to the social strategy that focuses entirely on pure relationship building, which we can call the Alex Wang strategy.
Right. This is the concept of doing things that deliberately do not scale. What is the execution here?
Well, Alex is a highly successful real estate agent. He understands that people share major life events on Facebook and Instagram, specifically when they go on vacation.
What?
Instead of just commenting, looks like fun, under their photo, Alex looks up where his past clients or hot prospects are staying. If they post a picture from a specific resort in Hawaii, he will literally call the front desk of that hotel, pay out of his own pocket, and have a nice bottle of wine or a dessert sent directly to their room with a personalized welcome note.
That is incredible. Imagine being on vacation, checking into your hotel room thousands of miles from home, and finding a thoughtful gift from a business contact you haven't spoken to in 6 months.
It triggers the psychological principle of reciprocal altruism. It creates an unbelievable level of loyalty and generates massive word-of-mouth referral.
I bet it does.
You are stepping out of the noisy, crowded digital feed and inserting yourself into their physical reality in a delightful way. It doesn't scale to 1 million people, but it doesn't have to. You do it for the high-value individuals in your circles, and it cements those relationships permanently.
Okay, so we've mapped out the entire digital ecosystem. We understand the privacy landscape. We've designed leak-proof landing pages. We've got the content waterfall flowing from research-heavy articles down to micro videos. And we are strategically building cheap audiences with the magic million and nurturing them with the chunky middle.
We have the whole machine running.
Right. But now we hit the most critical transition point in all of business, the fragile bridge between marketing and sales. Because I can have 10,000 highly qualified leads sitting in my database, but if I don't know what to do when I actually get them on the phone, I'm going to go bankrupt.
100%.
Leads are absolutely meaningless without a systemized psychological strategy for the follow-up.
This is where the vast majority of companies fail. They crack the code on lead generation, their marketing is flawless, but they completely ignore lead conversion. They spend a fortune acquiring these leads and then hand them over to salespeople who just wing it on the phone.
And winging it is a death sentence in the modern landscape. We need to explore the science of the sale, drawing heavily from the boiler room mindset. Now, for anyone unfamiliar, a boiler room traditionally refers to a high-pressure, incredibly loud outbound call center.
Yes.
The kind of place where hundreds of reps are dialing for dollars from tiny cubicles. It sounds soul-crushing, but there are massive fundamental lessons learned in that crucible, right?
Invaluable lessons. When you are making hundreds of cold calls a day, you figure out human psychology very quickly. The most foundational lesson from the boiler room is captured in an acronym, IASM. It stands for I am sold myself.
I am sold myself.
Yes. Before you ever pick up the phone, before you utter a single syllable to a prospect, you have to possess an almost irrational level of enthusiasm for the product or service you're selling. You must be so deeply, fundamentally convinced that what you are offering is going to improve their life or solve their problem, that you literally transfer that energetic conviction through the phone line. If you harbor any doubt, if you don't actually believe in the value, the prospect's subconscious will detect it instantly.
It's an energy transfer. And this ties directly into one of the most fascinating psychological breakdowns of human communication, which is the 738-55 rule.
This rule is crucial to understand. It stems from research by Dr. Albert Morabian, who studied how humans communicate feelings and attitudes, particularly when the messaging is incongruent, meaning when what you are saying doesn't quite match how you are saying it.
And the numbers are staggering. The research shows that 55% of the emotional impact of our communication is determined by our body language. 38% is determined by our tone of voice, and only a mere 7% is determined by the actual words we say.
And here is the massive structural challenge for inside sales or phone communication. The moment you are on a phone call, you immediately lose that 55%.
Right. It's just gone.
The body language is completely gone. The lead cannot see your posture, your facial expressions, or your hand gestures.
So the math shifts entirely. You lose over half of your communicative power instantly.
It does, which means your tone of voice suddenly becomes your absolute most powerful weapon. It has to carry the entire weight of the missing body language. Evolutionarily, our brains are highly attuned to tone, pitch, resonance, and pacing signal confidence, fear, or hesitation long before our conscious brain processes the vocabulary.
Let me demonstrate this because it's so vital to hear in action. Let's say I'm calling a new lead. I could use the exact same script, but the tone changes the entire reality of the conversation. So here's a flat, unenthusiastic tone, relying purely on the 7% words approach.
Let's hear it.
Hi, this is John. I saw you requested some information on our software. I was wondering if you had a few minutes to talk about how we might be able to help your business grow.
Yikes.
I know, I'm literally putting myself to sleep saying that.
If I am the lead, I am hanging up before you finish the sentence. There is no confidence, no authority, no transfer of energy. You sound like you are reading a hostage script.
Right. Now let me use the exact same vocabulary, but inject the 38% tone, bringing that I am sold myself energy.
Go for it.
Hi, this is John. I saw you requested some information on our software, and I was wondering if you had a few minutes to talk about how we might be able to help your business grow.
Lean day.
It's the exact same script, but it feels like a completely different person is calling.
It feels like you actually believe you can help them. Your tone projects sincerity, trustworthiness, and high competence. And the boiler room's secret to actually achieving that tone consistently. Motion creates emotion.
Pacing the cubicle.
Exactly. If you walk into a high-performing sales floor, you see top reps standing up, pacing around, using expansive hand gestures, even though the person on the other end of the line can't see them. They are getting their blood pumping because physiological movement literally changes the cadence, resonance, and energy of your vocal cords. You cannot sound highly enthusiastic and authoritative while slumped deep in an office chair with your diaphragm compressed.
Okay, so we have the right mindset, we have the enthusiastic tone, we are pacing the floor. Let's talk about the architecture of the call itself, because there is a profound difference between how an average rep manages time on a call and how an elite rep does, specifically regarding the timing of when they bring up the price.
The data on this is incredibly clear and counterintuitive. Average salespeople typically bring up the price of their product between minutes 13 and 19 of a call.
Wow, that early.
Yes, but top-performing elite salespeople do not discuss price until between minutes 36 and 42.
That is a massive gap. The average rep is rushing to the finish line, trying to get it over with, and the elite rep is settling in for a very long conversation. Why is delaying the price discussion so critical to conversion?
Because of a psychological concept called the buying line. Imagine an emotional graph. Your sole job on a sales call is to push the prospect's level of emotional excitement above the perceived logical cost of your product.
Okay.
You have a limited window of time while you have their attention to accomplish this. If you pitch the price, the hard, logical cost before you have successfully raised their emotional excitement over that buying line, you lose the sale.
It's like trying to cash a check you haven't written yet. The account is empty.
Exactly. The average rep hits minute 15, they feel a tiny bit of rapport, they get nervous about the silence, and they blurt out the price before the value has been firmly established. The prospect's emotional excitement is still low, the price seems astronomically high in comparison, and they say no.
Makes sense.
The elite rep spends those extra 20 minutes methodically building value, uncovering deep pain points, and driving excitement so high that by minute 40, when the price is finally revealed, it seems like an absolute bargain.
So how do we actually fill those 40 minutes? I mean, we can't just talk about the weather or their favorite sports team. We need a framework to gain control of the call and systematically drive that emotional excitement upward.
We do.
And the first hurdle you hit on almost every single cold or warm call is the brick wall. The prospect answers the phone, and their immediate instinct, driven by psychological reactants, the desire to protect their autonomy, is to get rid of you. They say, I'm just looking, or I don't have time right now, or just tell me how much it costs.
Those are reflex objections. They are defense mechanisms. And if you fight them logically, you create conflict. If you cave to them, you lose control of the call. The psychological framework to bypass these early brick walls is ARP, acknowledge, respond, pivot.
Acknowledge, respond, pivot. Let's break down the mechanics of this because it's essentially verbal martial arts.
It is about deflecting energy rather than blocking it directly. Let's say a lead answers and says, I just want to know what the interest rates are.
A classic one.
Right. Step one is acknowledge. You validate their request without agreeing to their demand. You say, you just want to know what the rates are? No problem. It acts like a verbal head nod. It immediately lowers their defense because you aren't fighting their premise.
It also buys your brain a microsecond to formulate your next sentence.
True. Step two is respond. You give a brief, intentionally vague answer that sounds helpful but doesn't actually give away your leverage. You say, the rates are currently at historic lows and most people I help are saving a ton of money.
Oh, you didn't give them a number. Because if you say 6%, their brain processes the data. They say, okay, thanks, bye, and the call is over. You gave them the concept of the answer.
Exactly. You answered the spirit of the question without giving away the data that ends the conversation. And that immediately leads into the most important step, the pivot. You instantly ask a question to take control back. You say, how long have you owned your home?
So, strung together. Acknowledge, no problem.
Okay.
Respond, rates are great right now. Pivot, how long have you lived there? You have completely bypassed the brick wall and put them on the defensive, having to answer your question.
And in any conversation, whoever is asking the questions is in control of the narrative.
Which opens the door for the core strategy of this entire process, which is digging deep. You mentioned earlier that elite calls last 40 to 60 minutes. Successful sales calls are literally 45% longer than unsuccessful ones.
They are.
And they fill that time by being intensely, aggressively curious. Curiosity is king. You have to stop being an order taker and start acting like a consultant.
This is the dividing line between a clerk and a highly paid professional. Let's do a role play to illustrate this. We'll use a $50,000 deck scenario. I'll play the lead, you play the average bad sales rep who just wants to take an order.
Okay, I can do that. Ring, ring. Hello?
Hi, this is John with the bank. I saw you inquired online about a $50,000 home equity line of credit. I can help you with that. What are you going to use the money for?
Oh, we want to build a deck on the back of our house.
Great, a deck. Who is your current mortgage with so I can run the numbers?
And scene. That is what an order taker does. They ask one surface-level question, check a box on their digital form, and move straight into the boring logistics. There is zero emotional connection made. There is absolutely no leverage built for later in the call.
You didn't care about the deck at all. You just wanted to process the loan and move to the next call.
Exactly.
Now, let's switch roles. You be the lead, I'll be the elite rep, using the digging deep technique. Ring, ring. Hello?
Hi, this is the bank following up on your inquiry for a $50,000 line of credit. I can absolutely help with that. Out of curiosity, what is the money for?
We're looking to build a new deck on the back of the house.
You're spending $50,000 on a deck. Wow. Tell me more about that. Is it going to have 2 levels and a built-in hot tub? Is it made out of mahogany? Why on earth are you spending 50 grand on a deck?
Huh, no mahogany. It's just that my husband finally got a massive promotion at work after years of grinding, and we've always dreamed of hosting big family barbecues. We have a huge extended family, and we finally have the money to build a space where everyone can gather together for the holidays.
And freeze? Look at the psychological goldmine that just opened up. By expressing genuine curiosity, by pushing back slightly, and asking why with the tone of surprise, you bypass the logic and uncover the real deep emotional reason for the purchase.
Yes.
They aren't buying wood and nails. They are buying family gatherings. They are buying the status and relief from a major promotion. They are buying future memories.
You found the emotional leverage, and you write that down immediately. Husband promotion, host family holidays, because 20 minutes from now, when the lead starts hesitating on the interest rate or the closing costs, you aren't going to argue math with them.
No way.
You are going to remind them that this loan is the key to having their entire extended family over for the holidays.
The number one thing human beings want is to feel heard and understood. Digging deep isn't just some manipulative tactical trick. It is the application of genuine human empathy. You are demonstrating that you actually care about the context of their life, not just the size of their wallet.
And as you dig deep, you are rapidly building trust. There is a great 2-step formula for accelerating that trust in the middle of a call. It's called co-branding, and a powerful statistic.
Okay, break that down for us.
Once you've dug deep and understood their emotional drivers, you want to briefly cement your authority before you pivot toward the close. You use co-branding by verbally aligning yourself with massive entities they already trust. For example, you casually mention, "We use DocuSign for all our secure contracts," or "Our software integrates directly with Google and Salesforce." You borrow their billion-dollar credibility.
So you're essentially communicating, if Google trusts our tech, you can trust our tech.
Precisely. And then you follow it up with a powerful statistic that proves your competence. Like, "We helped 150 families get into homes last year," or "Our clients see an average 40% increase in lead flow in the first 30 days. It appeals to their logical brain right after you've deeply connected with their emotional brain.
Okay, so we've acknowledged their initial resistance with ARP.
Hmm.
We've dug deep into their emotional motivations. We've established our authority. The prospect is warm. The emotional excitement is rising steadily toward that buying line.
They are primed.
Now we enter the phase of proactively uncovering objections. This is where we ensure we don't get ambushed at the finish line. Because there is nothing worse than talking for 45 minutes, delivering a brilliant pitch, asking for the credit card, and having them hit you with, oh, I need to sleep on it.
It is entirely soul-crushing, which is why the elite methodology trains you to pull out the hidden objections before you even start your formal pitch. You do this at the midway point of the call, right after you've dug deep and built that high level of trust. Their defenses are at their lowest point.
And you use what might be the best crafted question in sales. You ask, if we are able to accomplish your goals and you agree everything makes sense, is there any reason that you wouldn't be able to move forward today?
It is a brilliantly constructed psychological trap, but in a positive way. You are asking for a hypothetical commitment based entirely on conditions you intend to meet.
Right.
If they say, no, if it makes sense, let's do it, they have effectively given you a pre-commitment. You have swept the dreaded, I need to think about it objection entirely off the table.
Well, what if they do have a legitimate objection? What if they say, well, actually, I can't make a financial decision without my business partner?
That is fantastic news. You want to know that now at minute 20, rather than at minute 45 when you were asking for money,
True.
now you can address it strategically. You can say, great, let's get your business partner on a quick Zoom call right now. Or you adjust your entire goal for the call to securing a follow-up meeting with both of them. You proactively disarm the bomb before it detonates your close.
Okay, so we've cleared the minefield of hidden objections. Now we transition into the pitch itself, and we start with a technique called the 5 yeses. And this is where all those copious notes we took during the digging deep phase come into play. We're going to read back their exact answers to build an undeniable momentum of agreement.
You are setting up a pattern of positive affirmation, relying heavily on the psychological principle of cognitive dissonance. You say things like, earlier you said you needed $50,000, right? And they say, yes.
Okay.
And you're going to use it to build a deck, correct?
Yes.
And it's not going to be made of mahogany, is it? They laugh and say yes, because your husband just got that big promotion at work, didn't he?
Yes. And the main reason for this deck is so you can finally host your extended family for the holidays. True.
Yes.
Let me explore the psychology of this for a second because it's why this works so well. Human beings have a deep-seated psychological need to remain consistent with their past statements and beliefs. If we contradict ourselves, it causes a feeling of mental discomfort that's cognitive dissonance. So by getting them to say yes to their own stated desires 5 times in a row, we are locking their brain into a pattern of agreement.
You explained it perfectly. By repeating their exact words back to them, you are validating them profoundly. But more importantly, you are holding them accountable to their own stated goals and dreams. When they say yes to that 5th question about hosting their family for the holidays, they aren't saying yes to you, the salesperson.
Right.
They are saying yes to themselves. And because of that need for consistency, it creates massive momentum to hear the solution you are about to propose.
They've convinced themselves they need it, and that sets the stage perfectly for the pitch itself. We have them above the buying line, they're nodding along. Now we actually have to present our product, and we do this using the FBT framework: feature, benefit, tie down.
This framework is the antidote to the most common pitching mistake in the world, which is feature dumping. Average salespeople just rattle off a dizzying laundry list of what their product does. It has cloud storage, it integrates with email, it has a mobile app, it's open source, it has 256-bit encryption. They just throw features at the wall.
And the lead is sitting there in silence thinking, so what? I don't know what 256-bit encryption means for my life.
Exactly. A feature is simply what the product is. A benefit is why it matters to the user. But the FB2 framework adds the critical 3rd step, which is the tie down. You have to get them to explicitly, verbally agree that the benefit is valuable to them.
Give me an example of an FBT in action so we can really picture it.
Sure. Our software automates your follow-up emails. That's the feature, which means you can spend your time on income-producing activities that you actually enjoy doing rather than doing tedious manual data entry. That's the benefit. Does that sound like the kind of efficiency you're looking for? That is the tie down.
And because of the momentum we built, they say yes.
And you string 3 or 4 of these FBTs together. Feature, benefit, tie down. You are layering value upon value and continually getting their verbal agreement that this is exactly what they need.
Okay, so I've delivered my FBTs. The pitch is flawless. They're highly excited.
Whew.
Now comes the moment of truth. And there was one specific question that salespeople ask at this exact moment that absolutely ruins the sale. The worst question in sales history.
Oh, I know this one. So what do you think? Or how did that sound to you?
Ooh, you can hear the insecurity dripping from it. It's like a comedian delivering a punchline and then leaning into the mic and asking the audience, was that funny?
It completely destroys your authority. It
Yeah.
shifts their brain out of emotional excitement and back into analytical critique mode. Remember the boiler room mantra? The lion doesn't ask the lamb for food.
I love that.
You are the expert. You have diagnosed their deep problem. You have presented the perfect solution, and they have agreed it benefits them. Why on earth would you hand control of the conversation back to them and ask for a critique of your pitch?
So what is the exact phrasing we use to cross the finish line without surrendering control?
The moment they agree to your final tie-down, you transition with absolute, unwavering confidence. You say, great. So here's what happens next.
Great, so here's what happens next. It assumes the sale. It asserts leadership. You are guiding them by the hand to the checkout line.
And from there, you move into the close. This is broken down into 2 specific steps to avoid spooking the lead. First, you use a trial close.
You don't just immediately shout, give me your visa.
No, you ease them in. A trial close is a minor logistical question that implies they are moving forward but isn't asking for money yet. For example, is Tuesday or Thursday better for your onboarding call? Or do you want the delivery to your home or your office?
If they answer that question like, Tuesday works best, they have mentally bought the product, they are imagining the ownership.
Yes. And the moment they answer the trial close, you immediately drop the slot close. The slot close is the actual transaction. Great. Tuesday it is. Will you be using a credit or debit card for the initial deposit?
Bam. It's a psychological 1-2 punch. Trial close to confirm intent, slot close to capture the revenue. But, as we know, human beings are unpredictable and risk-averse.
Yeah.
Even if you did everything right, the digging deep, the 5 yeses, the FBTs sometimes, right at that moment when you ask for the credit card, panic sets in.
It does.
The lizard brain takes over and they throw up a last-minute objection.
It happens to the best of them. And this is where average reps fall apart and elite reps shine. When a late objection hits, you use the ARC framework, acknowledge, respond, close.
Acknowledge, respond, close. Very similar to the ARP we used earlier, but we are closing, not pivoting to another question. Let's role play this because this is where the money is truly made or lost. I'll play the lead who gets cold feet right at the finish line.
Let's do it.
Okay, so you just asked me for my credit card. I say, you know what, John, this all sounds really great, but I really need to talk to my wife before I spend this kind of money.
Acknowledge. You want to talk to your wife first. I completely appreciate that. I always talk to my wife before making big financial decisions, too.
That totally deflates the tension. I was bracing for a fight, and you validated my concern.
Respond. But let me ask you, were you and your wife on the same page about needing this new deck before we got on this call? Do you think if we called her right now, she would be absolutely thrilled that we are going to finally get this built so you can host the family for the holidays?
Oof. You used my own emotional leverage against me.
Oh,
Yeah, she's been bugging me to get this done for months.
close.
Yeah.
Great. Then let's get the paperwork started so we can send it over for her to review. I just need your card number to hold your spot on the construction schedule.
That is surgical. You validated the concern. You used the emotional motivation we uncovered 30 minutes ago to override their logical fear, and you immediately asked for the business again.
It works beautifully.
And there's fascinating data about how the best salespeople physically behave during these late objections, right? The data of the no.
The telemetry of a sales call is incredibly revealing regarding status and confidence. When an average salesperson hears an objection, they panic. They feel the deal slipping away. As a result, they immediately jump in to argue, and their speaking pace speeds up by an average of 15 words per minute. They become frantic.
They sound desperate, which signals low status to the primate brain.
But an elite salesperson, when they hear no or a late objection, they pause. They sit in silence 5 times longer than an average rep. They let the objection hang in the air, and when they finally speak, their pace barely increases, only about 3 words per minute faster. They remain deadly calm.
And that calmness projects massive authority. It signals to the prospect, I am not rattled by your hesitation because I do this every day and I know this is exactly what you need. It's the ultimate display of being sold yourself.
It is the manifestation of supreme confidence in your value proposition.
So what does this all mean? If we synthesize this entire journey, from the moment a stranger ignores our cookie consent pop-up to the psychological design of our landing pages, all the way to the moment they read us their credit card number over the phone. What is the grand takeaway?
Good question.
For me, it ties the entire journey together into one clear, memorable insight. The soul of the conversion code is realizing that leads are human beings. Whether you are meticulously designing a landing page to remove decision fatigue so their eyes go exactly where they need to go, or you are writing a 2,500-word blog post to genuinely, deeply answer a complex question they are searching for, or you're spending 45 minutes on a phone call, not feature dumping, but digging deep into their emotional motivations to understand why they want to buy a $50,000 deck.
Exactly.
Conversion is not about trickery or invasive tracking pixels. Conversion is simply the monetization of empathy and extreme professionalism.
That is a brilliant synthesis. The privacy revolution didn't kill marketing. It killed lazy marketing. It killed the ability to substitute data mining for genuine human connection. The psychological tools and frameworks we've discussed, the FBTs, the ARC method, the content waterfall, they are all just mechanisms to scale empathy and deliver value efficiently.
And to you, the listener, keep this in mind. 100% of the marketing you never do has a 0% conversion rate. You can listen to deep dives all day, you can read the books, but innovation is merely rewarded. Execution is worshipped. The gap between knowing this and doing this is where the money is.
It's about taking that first step out of the theoretical and into the reality of your own business operation.
Exactly. And I want to leave you with a final forward-looking thought. Something to chew on as you start implementing these blueprints to attract and close total strangers.
Oh, this is important.
Now that you possess the exact psychological and digital frameworks to break through the privacy walls and close deals, the real question is this: is your actual product good enough to keep them? Because the only thing faster than a brilliantly executed sales script is how quickly a bad product gets exposed and destroyed by reviews on the internet. Something to think about until our next deep dive.
What you just listened was the beginning of a full audio, way longer, explaining every single chapter of the book. If you would like to keep listening to the end and access to the full audio, you can access it with the link down below in the description and in the pinned comment.